behind all of the medals, the stages, the championship titles, you were kind of living a dark life.
Death by 1,000 cuts. Men would be like, oh, she's so strong. What I didn't have was the strength to walk away from something that was toxic for me. But I think I could have been a long reigning world champion if I didn't have to go through all that.
Miesha, Tate, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have this conversation for a lot of reasons. One, you're former Bantamweight UFC champion. You were one of the leading women that helped pioneer fighting in the MMA, and it just brought it to the map across the world. So that's got to be a really cool thing to be able to look back on, knowing that you were the tip of the spear on putting women on the map as far as combat sports and just showing what the capabilities were. And some of the bloodiest fights I have ever witnessed in my life have been women's fights. During that time, you kind of got into a dark relationship that lasted years and led you down some really dark paths and got you to almost a rock bottom stage where you contemplated taking your life at one point.
Yep.
And so behind all of the medals, the stages, the championship titles, the rings and fans and crowd, you were kind of living a dark life and trapped.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the misconceptions, at least with my story. But I think this happens a lot with female athletes, because you look at them and they look like the pillar of strength.
Absolutely.
Physically, we're strong women, we're capable women, we're leading a career. And for me, in my situation, leading a career in a male-dominated sport. So a lot of women, and I think men, would be like, oh, she's so strong. But what I didn't have was the strength to walk away from something that was toxic for me. And so I was, I was basically so focused on my career, and I was more worried about hurting the person that I was with at the time than I was about hurting myself. And so I stayed for way too long, because in my situation, it was kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. It's like a one more cut over one more day. Like, I can handle that. But, to leave him, he made it feel like I was, going to push him off of a cliff. And I was like,
It's fascinating and that's why I really want to dive into this, because as a girl dad, I would be like, look at, she's got everything. But in behind closed doors, you're battling some really dark times. But it came to a point, you changed your life around. Now you are probably one of the proudest titles that you'll ever hold as a mom.
Yes.
So congratulations to that.
Thank you.
And you now help women figure out their bodies and through their own biological DNA, I guess, of how the structure of how women are through body and mind, which is fascinating, because I'm obviously a girl dad, and there's a lot of things we live in this world now where women want to compete with men and compare themselves to men. And I don't ever understand why, because one, women are the most incredible thing that's ever been created. You guys give birth, and we have such strength and weaknesses of our own for males and females. And so I feel a lot of people want to just, you need to be like this, you got to train like men, you got to be like this. But in reality, you're never going to be able to compete on certain things of men level. But if you learn how your body works, how it develops, how you can change things and train certain ways, you can be an absolute incredible machine. And based off of how women and their, God, what is the word I'm looking for? You're just biological structure.
Yes.
So we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so before we get started, we're going to send you home with a fresh loaf
So excited.
of sourdough, because I know you're a sourdough girl.
Just for that.
We got you. Every few weeks, we change out some pretty cool flavors. We're about to drop the, what do we call it? We do a honey, bourbon, peach. Oh, the Southern Belle. That's what we call it. So we do a roasted pecan. We make our own homemade roasted pecans, and then we get the local peaches from the Gem Orchard, and we do a whiskey bourbon one. And so that one's going to be dropping soon. It was one of last year's favorite seasonal loaves, so we're going to bring that one back. So we're going to make sure we send you home with a fresh loaf today. As true fashion, who are you? Where are you from?
I am from Tacoma, Washington, and who am I is always such a loaded question. I
Right.
feel like that is something that's a work in progress. I'm a work in progress,
Who
to
is
be
it?
honest. Yeah, I don't feel like I totally know, but the things that I do know, the things that are important to me, the roles that I play is I'm a God-fearing woman.
Absolutely.
So I have, I feel like what I have is a great relationship with God
I
and
love that.
spirituality, and I'm a mother and a wife, and I think I am a strong person. Strength is something that I value, but not this kind of stubborn strength that I used to have. Now I have a flexible strength. Sometimes strength is not about bullying your way through something or forcing something or
man.
overriding something. Sometimes strength is about being, fragile in a moment, or really realizing it's okay to be vulnerable. Like, vulnerability is strength. When you can get comfortable being vulnerable and you realize, like, I'm in a vulnerable place, but I can find myself here. It's like such a beautiful place to navigate, right? The rest of your life.
I feel like my wife and kids probably set up this conversation because that's something as a man that we're never taught.
Right.
That it's the complete opposite. And this has been my chapter of this life, is unraveling my vulnerability.
Yeah.
Being able to be flexible with, being able to be this protector, but it doesn't need to be this warrior with a shield up and a sword
At all
wielding a
times.
sword at all times. There has to be the times where you can sit and listen, sit and cry with your children or your wife or spouse and all. So yeah, I'm right 100% with you, and it changes everything, how you react, how you process, how you think of any situation, changes it all.
Yeah. I think being able to navigate vulnerability and find yourself through it is, it's a pillar of strength.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
once you get that, start to dial it, you just watch everything start to fall in line.
Yeah. So I think that for me, growing up as a kid, my mom always liked to have good conversations with me, which I appreciate. When we would have arguments, I didn't realize it at the time, but we were engaging in Socratic debates and discussions. And I loved that because it was never a one-way street with my mom. It was never do as I say, sit down, be quiet, behave a certain way. And she used to get a lot of flack from people like, you let her talk back to you. And she's like, no, that's not talking back. That is, I'm giving her space to tell me how she feels about something. And I love that because my mom didn't know it, but she was cycle breaking back in the day because that's not how she was raised. My grandma was rest in peace, Grammy, I love you. But she was a hard woman and she wasn't the most tentative or emotionally available mother. So I think for my mom to be able to do that, my grandma was, she was a hard woman. She was angry at men and she was just a hard woman. She came over from Switzerland when she was 3 years old on a boat. And she didn't speak English, and she went to Catholic school where the nuns would, crack with a finger, crack and just, basically beat the kids. And she didn't speak English, so she got punished a lot for not being able to follow along with the coursework and those things. So she was a bit of a hardened woman.
Yeah,
and
calloused for sure.
Calloused, yeah, and not very available, I think, in the ways that I believe that children need that parental attachment. So for my mom to come out as level-headed as she did, with all her imperfections, but to give me the right and the space to communicate my feelings in hard situations was one of the most valuable tools I think that my mom ever allowed for me. And she never let the rest of the world tell her that was wrong. And I think she enabled me to have the kind of critical thinking mind that I have, to be able to think for myself and say, well, I don't have to just shut up and listen to what the world is telling me that I need to do and conform to. And I think that was the precursor for how I got into wrestling. I was one of two girls. It was my best friend and I that joined the male wrestling team.
Okay.
And I remember going home and asking my mom, and she was like, well, I honestly am not sure that you're going to like this, but I'm not going to tell you that you can't do it. And I said, okay, great. And she's like,
was this high school wrestling?
This is high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
So
grade?
late in the game. I was a freshman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So freshman year,
never
you
wrestled
just
a day in my
decide-
life.
What made you want to just start wrestling?
Well, I just wanted to play a sport.
Okay.
I loved sports. I think for me, that was where I got my was where I was find myself, where you learn to dig deep and you would have to overcome and you would get these victories internally. And there was something about that just drove me. I loved it, whether it was track or cross country or volleyball or soccer. There's always those moments inside sport that are hard to recreate
anywhere else.
Anywhere else.
You're not going to get it on video games. Now, nature is going to teach you a whole different set of life skills, being in the mountains and all that stuff. But as far as children, I grew up team sports, hardcore, should have gone the whole college route and all that. But if team sports now, I look at them completely different just by how these year-round travel balls have kind of ruined everything. So combat sports for me is what I am a huge advocate of. And it doesn't need to be this crazy Muay Thai, kickboxing, knocking the shit out of each other, but wrestling, even jiu-jitsu, just to get these kids to learn how to move their bodies, use their strength. And you watch a new kid
it's a life skill.
Learn how to grab somebody, and you watch, and then you realize my kid doesn't even know how to use their own strength. But that comes from those types of sports and everything that you learn inside of that atmosphere is so important for children.
Right. And so I really loved sports. I really started to fall in love with sports in middle school.
Okay.
And then I went to high school and I did cross country in the fall season. And then winter came around and the only women's sport offered was basketball. And I think another important skill set is to just know what you are not good at. Or what you don't care to be good at. Like in all fairness, there are things I'm not good at that I care to be good at.
Okay.
Like wrestling.
Okay.
I was not good at wrestling. It was horrible. But basketball, I had no interest. It didn't do anything for me. I don't jump high. I don't have great eye-hand coordination. I don't shoot the ball well. I was like, this is not the sport for me. Yep. I don't want to be good at this.
Yep. Which is perfectly fine.
But right?
We're gonna find
this
one.
is why I don't agree with everyone gets a trophy.
100%.
I don't agree with that because we rob children of the opportunity to realize what they're not good at. And that's important to know.
False hope.
False hope,
in this,
yeah.
In this image that everybody wins.
If you tell a child that they are equally as skilled as every single other child in the room, that is a disservice. Because each child and each person has something that they are the 1% at, that they are great at. And they should know that. They should be able to distinguish that so that they can continue their life forward in the areas that they are passionate about and that they are excellent at.
Absolutely. Some of the greatest lessons that my kids learned in the fighting world were tournaments that we came home completely empty-handed and had a 10-hour drive to sit and contemplate what went wrong over that tournament. And those were the lessons. Those were the ones that stuck. It's great to sit there on the podium and you got number 1, 2, or 3, whatever it may be. You're going to learn lessons. But when you show up and you think you're at a certain level and you get checked the whole entire tournament and you're sitting there going, oh my God, what's happening? That's when the learning occurs. Not from everybody gets a medal and you have this little false hope and cool, little Timmy gets a little cool
I did just
pictures.
as good as everybody else. Like, no.
But when you're driving when you're staring out the window for 10 hours, all the way home from Vegas or wherever we drove to, empty-handed, and you're just going through and replaying where you should have, moves and tactics and whatever happened. That's when I feel that my daughter's leveled up the most, was in those low moments, because it's like, hey, this is what makes or breaks the people that are going to come back or not. How do we recover from this?
If you listen to Andrew Huberman, which I enjoy his educational podcast, and he talks about the importance of failure for learning. Like the failure is actually what cues the brain to pay attention to how to do it right. Yep. So if you did it right every single time, you would not be as good as if you did it wrong 50% of the time, because your brain every time will be like, oh, like it kind of jars you back into like, okay, that wasn't right. Yeah. So now I understand how to not do it right, but I also clearly understand how to do it right better. So those failures are so important. And for, more than just the science of the brain, but honestly learning how to navigate doing difficult things and not winning and wanting to be better and wanting to strive for better. I think if you get first place every time, or you get a trophy every time, you're kind of like, it just doesn't have the same value of like, that sucks. I lost and I want to do better. I want to win. I'm gonna be at practice. I'm gonna be the first one. I'm gonna be 10 minutes early. Like, that's how you get motivation and drive, is through failure.
And all as a child, and all of those little lessons, like, that is why it is so important. When I talk to some parents and mentoring these guys, and I'm like, what are your kids into? They're like, oh, nothing. I'm like, oh man, fine. Well, they're not into that. Okay, cool. They're not into that, but find something they're into. Like, we started her out really early in jiu-jitsu. 2 classes in, she hated it. Not for me. Tried a bunch of other stuff, got out of the combat sports. Somehow we ended up finding our way back into it. Dude, 3 world titles now. All because you have to find that path. And I'm not saying you just let your kids quit after where we set standard. Hey, we're going to give this 2 months. We're going to dedicate this amount of time for it. After this time, let's have a conversation and
Yeah.
see if you progressed, how you don't like it, all the good, bad, the ugly.
Yes.
And if you truly hate it, cool. But we're going to find another one. And we excelled in it, and you never would have known without.
Right.
And I get some backlash on this because we forced our kids into a lot of things. Like, hey, you're going to try this. They get we did the cheerleading thing.
That's your job as a parent.
Absolutely. And it was like, but a lot of people don't agree with that. They're like, you should let your kids pick. Well, if you let your kids pick, they're probably never going to pick anything.
Well, they don't have perspective on life.
They don't even know what the sport is that you're talking to them about.
So the difference is that you should let your child have a say.
Absolutely.
But to choose something that they don't even know what jujitsu is or truthfully what it is. Like some kids think wrestling is the WWE. They don't know. This is how my husband got into wrestling. He's like a pro, grew up with his dad as a pro wrestling fan, and he thought it was pro wrestling. And then he ended up, going and getting a scholarship at BSU, but he started at like 8 years old, and he didn't know what it was, but he found his work ethic through it, and I think it changed his life. He first in his family to graduate from college.
Good for him.
Yeah, with the wrestling scholarship, and then fighting, and and then we met obviously through the sport. So I mean, there's so many amazing things I think that can come from sport. And I will say is that I believe that as a parent, you should not let your kid quit on a bad day.
Nope.
You let him quit on a good day. And that's with having the say. And that doesn't mean like, we set the standards too. So my daughter, for example, she doesn't love jujitsu. She's a very strong girl, physically strong. So I've been thinking, we're going to get her into lifting. Like we're going to get her into like powerlifting. I'm not saying I have goals or aspirations for her to like be super competitive at a young age with powerlifting, but she likes to lift her friends. She loves to lift weights. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We tried jujitsu. She got her first belt. She'd have a lot of days where she would cry. She's just developmentally a little bit like she's not quick on her feet. She's likely to kind of like roll over her fingers and like do little things, just get hurt. And she's not mean. She's like the sweetest child. So she is a lover. But we were like, okay, if you get to your second stripe and you still don't like it, you can stop. So like on the day that she gets her stripe, which is like a great feeling, right? And she's like, I'm done.
I'm done.
And I was like, great. Like we really gave this a good try. You had some tears, you had some good moments, you got your second stripe, and amazing. Now my son, on the other hand, is like, he's thriving. He loves it. And he's just developing so quickly. And I'm like, okay, well then, some days are hard, of course, but we just keep showing up. And he didn't like it at first either. Neither one of them really liked it at first. But most people don't. Everyone has a first day.
For sure.
I had a first day.
For sure.
I got my ass kicked. And that's what a first day usually consists of. So everybody has to start with, being the bottom, being the nail, so to speak.
What's interesting about you having your kids quit on a good day is I saw this stat a while back, and it was like 60 to 70% of kids quit on the way home from a bad practice. Yeah. And their in the car. Mm-hmm. That's where most kids quit. In the car, backseat, on the way home from a shitty practice or a match. And that's when kids break. It's at their lowest. I'm over it. The parents, I feel, are so invested nowadays in these team sports because the cost of everything. So that adds this whole other pressure. Then they see their kids struggling, and then it all comes like a head. And there's once that kid throws the flag in, the parents are just so easy because they're frustrated too. Instead of, no, hey, this is what it feels like to lose. This is what it feels like to be last.
And it's okay to be upset.
And it's 100% okay.
Please don't tell your kids this. Like, don't be upset. It's okay you lost. Like, no, it's okay. It's okay that they're upset. It mattered to them.
It means something.
That's good.
Like, I wouldn't want my kid to lose a match and just walk off and be like, meh, because then it means there's no passion behind it. But if your kid is at that point where they hate it, I don't want to do this, they care, right? At least that's how I look at it. They truly care, but it's just that emotions at the time. They're children. They don't know how to rate. Crying out loud, I'm a grown-ass man and I can't even regulate my emotions half the time. So like, let's call a spade a spade. The struggle is real. And we need some 10-year-old kid in the back that just lost. Like, they know. So that's where I feel so bad for a lot of these people because they just give in at that quick knee-jerk reaction. Like, we'll find something else.
See their kid suffering and struggling, and it's a lot of times it's as a parent's reaction is like, oh, my job is to protect my child, and we've gotten in this mindset that avoidance works. Like, we can avoid hard things and therefore they don't have to struggle, and like, why would we want our kids to struggle? But we need them to struggle. I don't know if you've ever read the book The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. I recommend it. It's really good. I did a podcast with him, and he's just a really brilliant man. But he wrote basically The Comfort Crisis is modern day world. Like, we are so comfortable in everything that we do. We rarely push ourselves outside or our children outside of the comfort zone. But in not doing that, we just do such a disservice, and depression, suicide, all these things. I think because sometimes these kids and young adults and even grown adults don't know that they can get through a hard time because they haven't practiced it enough. So when you hit a really low point, it's okay to be upset and sad. That is okay for your child to be bummed out and frustrated. What's not okay in that moment is to give up on yourself.
Facts.
Right. So
what's crazy, you saying that we put a lot of pressure on our girls in the early, when we discovered medals to the sport, all of us at the simultaneous, 4 of us in this family all saw the first medal, and we were just like, this is real. It was this giant 3-pound, some of those medals are bad. And so it was like bedazzled. I think it was a Vegas one, and we were hooked. But all traveling, competing, doing all of that stuff, that was like when we put the pressure on, because we'd always give our kids the goals. Hey, what are our goals this year? We want to do this. If you tell me we're going to do this, we're committed, right? You want to chase national title championship? We're going after it. But the pressure that we would put on our kids by, hey, this is the ring, you're going to level up. Hey, you're a brown belt, but you're going to fight black belts because no other color belts showed up. All this pressure and pressure and pressure. And there was times where we'd crack, we'd build them back up. But then she's out with her friends and they're having full meltdowns over some homework or boy drama or high school drama. And she's coming home like, man, my friends are crying in the shower over this. She's like, I don't know how to relate to it. I don't understand. Because her pressure from just
her perspective of what hard really is
was leveled up.
And her ability to get through it. Pushing. And working for me, the pressure of coming on as a 16-year-old at the time. She's never even watched a podcast. Get online, figure this out, get on YouTube. You need to figure out how to edit. I can't sit here and be like, hey, kid, this is how we do. I don't even know. So I put that pressure, figure it out. We need to get this up and running. Like, we're bringing this in-house. So to put that pressure on your children is such an incredible thing, because you're teaching the world. Once they leave your home, the world doesn't give a shit how prepared your child is or not. I would rather have that pressure knowing that they know how to push through it. That I'm going to need to buckle down, grind through this phase and get over this hurdle, whatever it may be that life's giving them, learning it as a child, young teenager. So when they hit that adult phase, they lose a job. There's a huge setback in their life. They're not going to just crumble because we've sheltered our children in our homes, right? As parents, it's our natural thing is to want to protect. One of the hardest things is to let your kid take that step knowing they're about to get just fed to the lions. But knowing
those are
that they're
lessons.
Gonna fall.
They're going to fall. But guess what? As long as you're there to pick your child up, hey, when you dust them off, listen.
I truly believe that the job of a parent is to teach your child to do dangerous things safely.
100%.
And learn that they can do hard things. That is a phrase that I use constantly. 100%. My kids who are 6 and 8, they just turned 6 and 8. And so it's constantly like, why do you pick challenging things, or why do you do these things? And I'm like, I ask my kids that. For example, my daughter and her friend on the 4th of July, they wanted to do a concert in front of all, there's like 40 people there, but they were nervous about it. And especially my daughter's friend, a little bit, a different parent, great parents, but just a different parenting style. And she was so nervous about it. Like, even just me watching it, I'm like, that's okay. Like, that is okay to be nervous. I was like, do you know what nerves are? I was like, that is your body telling you that this is important to you and that you're ready for it, that you can do it. Because you can do hard things.
Look at the confidence.
And they did. And it was amazing. And it was so neat to see them work through that anxiety. I mean, they're 8 years old, but they naturally wanted to do something challenging. I was like, did you know that one of the biggest fears of any person is like public speaking, like getting on a stage and performing? It's like number one fear. I was like, so for you to be nervous about that is normal. And
to be able to overcome this at 8 years old or whatever.
And you can still do it. Because it's hard, and you chose to do something hard, and it's going to be hard, and that's okay. And you can still do it. Even if you mess up.
That's why it's so important to push your kids.
Push them.
Our little one, I've talked about it. She wanted.
Then they start pushing themselves, and it's so cool.
And then you start watching them doing it, or just now instead of coming to you, they automatically are doing it, or they want to practice, or they want to show you more because you gave them that little bit of confidence. And that, when I say safe space, hey, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. This is going to sound like shit. It might taste like shit. It's going to look, whatever it may be. We're going to figure it out. This is our base. Let's just start building from here. And then once your kids do, you're like, oh, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Let's try this. You know, our little one does rakes every year, and her first year rakes leaves. She wanted her little side hustle business. And so, but door-to-door sales, almost just about.
That's a skill.
And she was so nervous. She's terrified. Dad, you come with me? I'm like, I'll go with you the first couple doors. And I'd not, and I'd stand behind her, and she'd mumble her way through, and we had some doors, and no, not interested. And she'd start to get a little discouraged. And with the 5th, 6th, 7th door, whatever it was, I'm like, hey, we're going to go till we get one. And she gets her first yes. Guy pays her $20 for this little kid. I mean, it was like Christmas for her. Then that was all it took for not letting her quit.
Right.
Now she has all her little friends. They're all her little workers. She's got flyers she's printing out.
She's 12. This is amazing.
And now she's got reoccurring customers in the neighborhood that are calling her, hey, is your dog
That's education.
And so, but just to get over that fact of fear, now, I mean, we just had a farmer's market that got canceled due to weather. So we're sitting on 100 loaves of bread. She goes and grabs her little homeschool friends. They grab a cart, and they slung bread through all the neighborhoods just trying to make a profit. They're like, well, it's fresh. So they went door to door. They were just selling those for like whatever people had.
One.
Yeah, 100%, right? So people made out. I mean, they're selling it for $5. They were just trying to make anything off of it. But the fact that the confidence of what she used was terrified to go knock on a door. Now I'm like, where are the kids? Oh, they're going door to door pushing bread. And it's just one of those confidence things that when she steps into this young woman role, she's not going to have a problem going to somebody like, hey, do you mind if I have this? Or ask a question or take charge in something because of what they were able to do, the pressure they're able to feel as a kid, failing, overcoming, accomplishing. I mean, you're just setting your kid up for such an incredible life in the real world when they leave by putting all of that on them as children in the right mounts and things. We might have gone a little too hard in certain areas, but
we never get it perfect, right? I mean, perfection's the goal, but it's never what you obtain. It's just that journey on the way. And that's honestly why I'm launching Apogee Boise here, because of that. Like what you're talking about, young leaders. I want to create an environment and facilitate an environment for children to learn that what you are already doing here with your kids, you have it figured out. I mean, I love hearing those things, but children are leaders.
Absolutely.
And they just need a little guidance sometimes from adults. But otherwise, like, they are incredible little humans that are capable of so much more than I think we realize. And putting them in a box of standardized education is such a disservice to what they're truly capable of. I mean, your daughter's 12 years old and she's already running multiple businesses. That's like incredible.
And the questions that they pick up on and the customers. Okay, so if we add this ingredient, then that lowers our profit. And this is a conversation I'm having with a soon-to-be 12-year-old. But if we charge more, then we make more. We're like, okay, yes, but you just can't. But explaining, okay, you can't just raise the price on everything, and business. But the fact that my mind wasn't. I'm not talking to my parents at 11 years old about profits and losses and if we do this, we got to pay them taxes on this, and that's living. That's the real world. And I mean, I'm not turning our children into these employees out the gate, but they're learning those types of skills. Meanwhile, you got Timmy sitting in a classroom that has to raise his hand to go use the restroom, and you fed him sugar all morning and he's cracked out. Now the teachers think he's got ADHD and all the other problems because his little boy can't express himself because he's developing, sitting in a chair all day, built around almost identical to our prison systems. You're going to tell me, and I'm not throwing shade on this public school system, because I know a lot of people, that's a huge escape for children to be able to get away from their homes and everything else happening. But if you have the ability to be able to pull your kids out and sculpt them, preserve them in their innocence, this is where these types of programs, it is the most valuable thing that we are blessed to be able to do.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I'm so excited for it too, because I come from the parent first perspective. My kids went to Apogee Henderson.
Got it.
So I have 2 years of experience of like what it's like to be on the parent side, and then, moving here.
Crucial.
Yeah. Moving here to Boise. I think so. It helps with the perspective.
Absolutely.
Then moving here to Boise, I was like, I want that. I want that for my kids. And I not only want it in a, I want to change the atmosphere. I want to add to the atmosphere. I want to make it more of what I would personalize, what I would like for not just my kids, but honestly, since becoming a parent, the degrees of separation between my children and other children is very small. I just love kids. Kids are so cool. And
they're fascinating.
They're fascinating and they're so inspiring. I'm so inspired by them. I hang out with them for a day and I'm like, I am just blown away and I'm inspired.
I have to have you meet this kid. He's a homeschooler in this neighborhood, and you won't even know. I want him on. How old is Keki's friend? I want to say his name. Maybe 13. Maybe. I want him on the podcast. This kid's that fascinating. The confidence. He'll look you dead. He'll walk through the front door or across the whole room. He looks at you the whole way with his hand out, like dead in your eyes. Hi, I'm so and so.
I love it.
And the whole family will be sitting on the couch, and he's just sitting on a stool. Let me give you my pitch on homeschool, and he just goes on this whole rant. And we're all sitting, and he leaves. We're like, who the hell is this kid? But within a day of my daughter meeting him and their little circle of these homeschool kids that roll in, they have a business plan already planned out. They have all these little ideas and ways they're going to hustle over the summer. And it's so just, good. It's a mindset with these kids.
Yeah, like, why can't we want that for our
kids?
But
it's fascinating. You meet these children and you're like, man, like, this. And it's going to sound kind of like a public school bash. It's not. I understand where everybody is. But when you are out of the system long enough and your children aren't pulled into the trends and the system of the public school, and you see how they develop outside of it in their own world, it is fascinating that you just, it's night and day. I can't even compare this group of kids to any other because the way that their mind thinks, that they're processing situations.
You see what they're truly capable of.
The critical thinking the questions that they ask, you're just like, oh, yes, okay. This is where I want your mind. It might be something completely off topic, mean nothing, but the fact that their mind isn't just this textbook, cookie cutter, sit down, raise your hand, do this, X, Y, and Z, on to the next problem, even though you don't know it. The way that their minds develop outside of the system, and you're just like, oh, okay.
This is why.
When it starts connecting like that, it's the most incredible thing to watch.
It is. It truly is. And I cannot wait to see more kids doing that. Because I've seen my kids, like I said, from the parent first perspective, but now launching my own campus, and it's going to be the homesteading, which I've kind of told you about or whatever, but we're on 3 acres. We've got cow, we've got a chicken, we've got goat, lots of chickens, goats, ducks, all the things, and gardening. And, so it's like the kids are going to be able to connect with the land and the animals. And that's, I think, a big part of education too. I think as a young age, I benefited. I had chickens and cats and geese and, oh gosh, lots of animals. But there was a lot that I learned from taking care of animals and animal welfare and that, being able to empathize and care for and lose, it sucks to lose an animal. But that is a big lesson to learn young too.
For sure. That's why I love 4-H in certain schools. I wish every school did it, where you can, show sheep and cows and pigs and things like that, and rabbits, because I think early on when our youngest was a little, she had a friend that was in 4-H, and she started talking about like the birds and the bees, but she was able to explain it through rabbits. And then our kids know it through hunting and the rut and everything that goes into it. So that you're able to teach your kids certain life lessons through these animals without it being so taboo of just, okay, we're going to have a sex talk. When you have your sex talk with a kid that knows about breeding, I mean, my kids were breeding bearded dragons in this room at one point in our life. And actually where they had all these babies and shit. So they know mating, they know the season, they know death, they know all kinds. Yeah. And so then we couldn't get rid of these fucking things. Nobody wanted them. I was stuck with all these.
The bearded dragons.
Yeah. So, but it's one of those things that it's not this awkward conversation because it's just life. Your kids know about mating seasons and breeding and habitat. And so it's another one of those skills that they just develop with. And you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Now we can have this talk, a mature talk.
Yes.
And you already know the basics, but now we're going to have the human version talk. So it's one of those things that helps out in the long run of just teaching death, life,
all of it,
struggles, feeding, the shitting, changing cages, and it's just so much of responsibility.
And one more thing is we would talk about doing the hard things, because in our program we're going to have wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and our gymnastics built into the curriculum. So that is physical education, learning to move your body, learning a skill set, not just working out, but actually learning that skill set. That's a lifelong skill set. So for me, I know that when I started wrestling, I was 15 years old. I was behind the curve. Boys have gone through puberty. There's big physical differences. And it was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. And I love loved it. I loved showing up for that every single day. I loved working towards, becoming better, even though I was so far from even being good.
Yeah.
But just showing up every day and thinking, honestly, almost every day of wrestling practice, I questioned whether I was going to make it to the end of practice because it was so hard, like so physically intense. And not only physically intense in like running sprints and, cardio and anaerobic threshold and all that stuff, but I mean, the physical hand-to-hand combat with young males was, talk about a mental, I was never the strongest person in the room.
Yep.
I never was. It was never even about winning for me, to be honest. I joined wrestling and there were very few days on the mat that I ever was even, what would by standard criteria would be considered successful.
That's fascinating.
So
you just grinded through.
Just grinded through. I just wanted to be better. I wanted to learn the sport, and I wanted to prove to myself and maybe to maybe to some of the guys. I think that you would get the idea that they didn't think that girls could do that. They just thought we missed the memo. Like, girls don't do this. Like, let's just show them how hard it is and like we'll get rid of them. And I was like, no, I'm committed.
Did your friend make it through with you all the way?
She did 3 of the 4 years.
Okay.
And I did 4, and it worked out really well for me because my junior year was the year that I was the only female on the wrestling team.
Okay.
And I think that was the year that I got the best because I was forced to wrestle with the guys exclusively.
For sure.
When they would kind of like partner us together, but she was smaller than I was. And so it didn't really help me as much as it did, by honestly getting beat down by the guys was more helpful.
Her training partner when she was on her journey for Worlds was a boy her age, and he was fast, like a mongoose. And they just beat the shit. They'd spend hours up here wailing on each other. So then when she would step into the ring, these girls are practicing against other girls. And now she doesn't know she's not on a woman's speed, these young girls' speed. So she's stepping in the ring and hitting these girls with power and speed. And they're
Yeah.
like, what is this? But it's for her, that's her level because being natural, training with people that are better than you, that's the only way to level up. And when she had these kids that are just wailing on her, I'm like, well, okay, it's the only way you're going to learn. Like, good luck. And just throw them in lines. But then when she would step out and go into her ring, you could just hear a difference in strikes and weapons hitting and all that. It was just night and day. So it's a massive level up
It is.
For a young girl to just train with pure boys and they could take you in like that. Oh, there's nothing better than
Agreed.
Because when you're getting into the ring with these young girls and they grab you, you're like, oh, this is nothing compared to this kid that is literally trying to rip my head off for the last 3 months in practice.
Yes. And in Washington State, my junior year was the first year that they implemented a sort of a women's state tournament.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't truly state because obviously there were so many men and boys, so they have to go through regionals and, districts and, they have to qualify for state. But for us girls, and especially me, because I was never like a super tiny girl, I remember still to this day, my very first weigh-in checking my weight as a wrestler. As a freshman, I was 130.6. So I was never tiny. Like the smaller boys, some of them have like the 103 pounders or 106 pounders. Like they haven't gone through puberty yet. So like if you can be a smaller girl, like then sometimes it's a little bit more fair. But like when you're getting to, 130 and up, or even 125, honestly, and up, most of the boys are mature at that point.
Yeah.
And also older, right? Because like if you're a 105 pounder, you're likely a freshman. There's not many seniors who are still 105 pounds because you're growing.
And it's one of those things, especially in the competitive world where the weight is such a huge thing, you notice such a drastic difference in age groups. There's certain age groups where girls will spike, and go through these big growth spurts. And then there's like groups where an age difference in a year in the boys is just massive. I'm talking 20, 30 pounds and 8 inches. And these guys, you'll just start seeing those puberty spikes. So depending on where you fell into those phases, you could be going against some monsters. Pretty significantly larger human beings.
Yeah, for sure. We were size, we always weighed the same technically, but the body composition and the biology was completely different. So I remember I wrestled 130 my freshman year, 135 my sophomore year, 140 my junior year, and 145/152 my senior year. So, so I'll explain that in a second. But so I basically every year I would go up 5 pounds, and by my senior year I was 145. But we would weigh in, and there was only 2 145ers on the team, and there was the team captain was the varsity 145er, and we had no 152 pounder. So him and I would both weigh in at 145, and then they would decide depending on the matchup, which I still think was, he was the only chance of like winning points. Okay. So I wasn't going to win points, especially on varsity. Come on. I've been wrestling for 4 years and I'm going against these, massive athletic young men.
Yep.
So I think they would pick the match that would be most likely for him to win and score points for the team because I was already a loss. So sometimes I would weigh in at 145 and bump up to 152 and be wrestling 152-pound varsity males.
How did that go over?
Well, I got used to getting my ass kicked a lot, but I was there to like not give up. So my goal wasn't winning or losing. It was to not give up 6 points for the team, only give up 5, to just basically not get pinned. That was my goal. So I got really good at not getting pinned.
Okay.
Very flexible shoulders, like that's potentially dangerous, like stop. So I got really good at that. And I tried to give up only 5 points to the team instead of 6 by not getting pinned.
No shit.
That was my goal. That was a win for me.
And so, so you get into wrestling and start figuring it out. You just weren't going to quit at it. So your senior year, I mean, were you really into the sport and wanted to continue onto other things? Or was wrestling your only combative sport at that time?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I only did other running sports. I did soccer and volleyball in like middle school, but by the time that I went to high school, it was cross country, wrestling, and track.
Okay.
So I did a lot of running sports.
So then where did everything shift for you? When did you want to start taking this to the next level?
Well, I would say, let me tell you about the state wrestling. So my junior year, they implemented a women's state round robin that would happen which is just like four girls in a bracket.
Yep.
So we would all wrestle each other. No eliminations or anything to like get to that point. But we got to experience being under the Tacoma Dome in the big lights where the guys were wrestling for their state championships. And that signified our state because there were very few women across the state that were sparsely also doing what I was doing. And so that was an opportunity for us to kind of connect under the big lights after being, mostly sacrificial, kind of lambs,
I mean,
just surviving.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
And so my junior year, I broke my ankle 2 weeks before, and I was so bummed because that was the first year that they were doing it. So my senior year, I came back and I was just focused on, I was like, I want to be there under those lights and I want to win that tournament. And I did.
No shit.
So I wrestled all the girls and I ended up getting the gold medal, the first place. And that was amazing because after all the hard work and, defeats and never really being able to win against the guys that, to be able to wrestle the females and like, okay, like that was my moment.
That was your taste, huh?
That was my moment. Okay. And then I love combat sports.
Though.
Yeah. I love combat sports, but I had no guidance as far as like how to pursue going to a college that was going to have women's wrestling. And so my parents did want me to go to college. I had a high school sweetheart at the time. I kind of didn't want to go too far away. I was, lack perspective again in life. Mm-hmm. And so I went to Central Washington University, which was just a couple hours away, so I could drive home on the weekends. And they had just cut their men's wrestling program, I think the year before I got there.
Okay.
So the wrestlers that didn't transfer out to other schools ended up making this club sport of mixed martial arts. So it was on like Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 days a week. And my friend Rosalia, who's in my dorm, she was like a karate girl. And she was like, you got to come and check out this mixed martial arts club sport. And mind you, I didn't know what mixed martial arts was. And I think I vaguely knew of what the UFC was, just kind of like in passing, but I wasn't a fan. And she said, you've got to come and check it out. But she's like wearing this karate suit. And I was like, I was like, like, I know wrestling in a singlet's weird, but I'm very uncomfortable with what what you got going on over here. So
I've been indoctrinated into a whole different world. Yes. I'm not ready for this one.
Yeah. And so I was like, whoa, you know, like, and I was like, I'm not trying to like, you know, do that. So not, and I'm just making fun. Obviously, I think all martial arts is great, but there are some that are more artsy and some that are more effective.
For sure.
Karate is great for, I think, teaching kids discipline, but it's not, I don't believe that it's an effective, true fighting style. Like if you're in a street fight, that's not useful.
Have you seen those, there's videos, we die because they're Taekwondo videos, but it's a girl, like when someone tries to grab me in public and then she goes like into her form and starts doing this.
Right.
I'm like, it's like,
that's not really going to work.
I mean, you're going to learn skills, but I get what you're saying. There's
discipline. You can learn
100%.
Discipline and stuff, but like, let's not think that these kids or, you know, people doing this, so that is really going to translate to someone who's violent in the streets.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so she's doing that. And I was like, I don't know. So I didn't go with her the first day. And she came back and she's like, you got to come. So she was persistent about it. And I was kind of like, I don't know. She's like, they're all former wrestlers. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, I'm listening.
All right. Yeah. Now you got my attention.
Yep.
So I went with her the next day. And on my very first day, I learned how to choke people. And I was hooked.
Really?
I was like, this is great. I was like, you mean that I can take the wrestling that I normally do, but I can like bend people's arms the wrong way. And like, I can add on to this. I was like, tell me more about jujitsu. I want to learn more than a rear naked choke, you know? And
no shit. So a random girl in a karate uniform that invited you to a mixed martial arts class at college is
I'm
what
still in
started.
contact with her today, Rosalia.
No shit.
Yeah, like she was my dorm mate, so she was my neighbor in my dorm at college. And
so she's the girl. It's like, I know her. I got her into this.
Yes,
from
she
the other
recruited
side.
me. I would not be doing this if it wasn't for her.
That's
Absolutely.
all it takes.
Yeah. And then my friend Sharon too, the one in high school, it was her idea to go out for wrestling. It wasn't mine. So none of this was my idea.
Which is hilarious because we look at you and what you've accomplished and who you stepping into the ring against Ronda Rousey and all these other rivals and badass women. And you would automatically think like, oh man, she was groomed into
or raised or had a family or big older brothers. None of that.
None. That is fascinating.
I had very little family support. My dad hated the fact that I wrestled. I don't think he really ever went to like, maybe he went to like one match or whatnot. Like it was not something he supported. And my mom would try to go, but she worked a lot, but both my parents worked a lot. So I was used to like not really having their presence, at least. My mom was always supportive. She was maxed. You know, we grew up, definitely not well off. Like we struggled.
For sure.
So the first part of my life, so my dad, who I'm talking about, I met him when I was like 3.
Okay.
So the first few years of my life, it was just my mom and I, and we were in a house that my parents actually still live in now, which is pretty cool. It's like never have moved in my life. It's a beautiful property. It's on 5 acres, but the house at that time was very dilapidated. Okay. Probably would have been condemnable. And my mom was a single mom, broke, and my dad was a Green Beret. So pretty cool, but he was in the military, and at that time the military just didn't pay nothing. He was enlisted. So I mean, it was like, I don't know. It was nothing. They provided the barracks and food, and they paid them like nothing. Yep. So that's why after he got out of the military afterwards because of us, and like he wanted to get a job. And your hair. Thank you. Gotcha. Is it crazy?
Girl dad.
I appreciate you. Good. Good job. You've trained him well.
100% that one. She's like, you did me dirty, Dad. You let my hair. I'm like, I'm sorry. So, I got trauma. That's a trauma response.
Trauma response.
When I see women with their hair,
there are good trauma responses, and that was a good one.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, you're good. So he got out of the military to start taking care of us, find a good paying job. But okay, so at the time when I was really little, I remember my mom and I being back in one room. So the power was shut off to the entire house, and the upstairs, the roof was leaking. So when it would rain, like the water would come in upstairs. So that's why we were in the downstairs room, which is now our study. But we had a bed back there at the time. I don't remember if it was an air mattress. It was a bed. I ate like Lucky Charms every morning for cereal. Like that's what I had. Like we lived off of cereal and Top Ramen for, quite some time. And I remember she had a friend of hers. His name was Virgil, and he worked for the power company, and he took pity on her one winter when it was cold. It was really cold. And so he came and flipped the power switch on and was like, you have to keep it under a certain like meter. Like it's got to stay real low and the power company won't notice that it's on. It's like, don't be turning lights on in the house, nothing. Like, so we had one electric heater in that room just to keep that room warm enough. And there was snow outside. And I remember leaving that room at one point and going to the toilet and the water being frozen over. And I still remember that very distinctly as a young girl.
And is your dad living with you guys?
Not yet.
Is this your biological?
No, my biological father was not in the picture at the time.
Okay.
I didn't know about him until I was 5. So this was prior to him.
Okay.
So we have a relationship now too.
Your biological?
My biological father.
He's not the Green Beret.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. He was a musician actually.
Really?
Yeah. He who did he open for? He would die if I probably didn't remember. But like some big, he was a rock
okay
guy. So incredible. Can just rip on an electric guitar and he's just so musically inclined, really, really talented.
When did you guys connect?
I think I was 10 or 11, maybe when we met the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from that point, was he in your life or was he in and out? How did that go?
It wasn't like we saw each other very often, but he always would like send a gift and maybe like, I think again, I went over to his house when I was like 15. I think so. Maybe like right around the time I had started wrestling, and then we started developing a little bit more of a relationship, and now we have a good relationship.
Awesome.
So
what about your stepdad? I mean, I don't know if he raised you or not. I hate using step terms.
I know. Yeah,
when people
it's a term for people to understand, but I call him my dad. Yeah.
100%.
He's my dad. He 100%. Provided for me. He raised me. So when I say dad, I'll be referring to him.
Okay.
And so I was about 3. He got out of the military. I got a job. Then things started to get better because we were able to like fix up the house. But hardworking, blue collar mom and dad who didn't have money for my wrestling shoes. It was my mom would go without new shoes, like literally wholesale shoes. I remember she would get her shoes at Payless. She would get those cute flat like cotton, like really inexpensive shoes. They're probably like $3 at the time. And she would just wear those things until the wheels fell off. But we would always have like new shoes to go to school in. Like she did,
good for her.
Like she sacrificed. And so did my dad, but in different ways, different ways. And so when I went out for wrestling, I remember like the first half of it, I don't know. It was probably until like the first tournament, or the first match, I finally got wrestling shoes. So I didn't have wrestling shoes for a while because it was an expense,
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that was a little bit of my childhood was my parents just working so hard. And I think my dad and I started to butt heads as I became more like a teenager. Now, my dad was raised from a very strict household. I would say an emotionally disconnected mother, an overbearing father. He was the only boy, so we had 2 girls, and he was the middle kid. And the boy just raised different. That was where that was where the dad's frustrations or anything would go wrong, or if he was double standard. I'm not saying that the sisters didn't have it tough too. They did, but when it came to like the physical aspect of it, it was different for my dad. I remember a story of my grandpa, we called him Opie, was 6'7", just a booming, massive man with a bellowing voice. I mean, he could just rattle the walls with the yell. Like he was very scary. And like he put my dad through a wall at one point. Like I remember I won't tell my aunt's story because I don't want to speak on her behalf. I know that my dad's comfortable with me telling, a few of those things. So, my dad young started smoking weed and like looking for that kind of outlet of just like, how do I self-medicate? I think a lot of people who deal with addiction is more about trying to find comfort.
Absolutely.
And like, I wish that people were a little bit less judgmental and realizing like, you probably haven't been through what that person is. I don't know if you know who Dr. Gabor Mate is, but I'm a huge fan of his. And he explains that as addiction, I think one of the addicts he talked to described it as like a warm hug, like when they would shoot up, it was like they would get this sense of like love, like and belonging. It's like, man, like what human isn't entitled to that? Now that's misguided, of course, but my dad was numbing.
Chase. That's the feeling, right?
Yeah, it was just like
back.
We need as humans, we need connection, we need love, we need something. If we don't have it, then we try to self-medicate sometimes because we're misguided. And so I think my dad tried to do the same thing with weed, and he kind of, I don't know, he got a little bit he wasn't a bad kid, but he got little misguided, and then he ended up enlisting in the military, and that totally changed things around for him, right? Yeah, so it added that structure and purpose, and then he met my mom, and he was young. So my dad he's like 2.5 or 3 years younger than my mom.
Okay.
So my mom was 22. We actually have the same birthday. I was born on my mom's 22nd birthday,
That's
August
cool.
18th.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we share the same birthday. So my mom says she's forever 22. I'm like, I'll let you have it, Mom. So I'm now older than my mother.
Yeah.
But so I was 22. So she would 23, 24, 25. So my dad was 22 when he entered the picture, and a young 22, like a military, like not an experience with kids.
Who is at 22?
Who is at 22?
God, I just found myself like a few years back.
Right. And so he's coming out of the military, and he was very fun. He was like a big brother. Like he was like a playful, very playful. But when it came to like discipline and stuff like that, extremely like scary. Like he was the yelling, he never touched me because he knew, but he did. He was hard on my brother.
How many siblings do you have?
So in that family dynamic with my dad who raised me, there was myself, well, not by blood, and then my brother was 7 years younger than me, and my sister was 7 years younger than that.
Okay.
Or 7.5.
Damn.
Yeah. So we have like quite an age gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was the same dynamic, a little bit more spread out, but my dad was raised with an older sister who's a middle boy and then a younger sister. So it was the same thing playing out with my brother, kind of taking, my parents were breaking generational cycles. They weren't as, intense or as their parents, but of course, there was still a lot that had to be worked through and not as many tools and opportunities. So he was hard on my brother. It was hard on all of us, but thank God for my mom. My dad's a wonderful man.
All the good moms out there.
But like, thank God for my mom, because she was the one, like she was the sounding board. She protected us in the ways that, she did her best. She did her absolute best.
That's why women are so incredible.
Yeah. So thank you. I mean, so are men. It's a dynamic.
It's a lot of us. I'm speaking for a military guy, law enforcement guys. And I've had men on where we talk about we're raised in these worlds of just violence and death and adapt and overcome, and it's just peak, and then we get thrown in these worlds of families at young ages where you become fathers, and it's so hard for a lot of us to be able to process
just
all
become
of that.
emotionally available all of a sudden.
And that's why I give so much credit to wives, because mine is just like, fucking no, we're done with this. Like, they're not Marines, we're breaking these chains. Like, we're not going to pass this generational shit on. And if it wasn't for the good ones to be able to breed that into us, like, we would just be our dads.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. And then our kids are talking about us how I talk about ours.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I don't need to get into it with this whole like boss babe feminist bullshit. It's like, it just kills women. It's such an incredible, the most fascinating, incredible creature to ever walk this planet is a woman. And it's like, why do you guys, it kills me when I see the agenda that goes against our kids and these young women. It's like, man, and granted, I'm old school, to be able to watch what my wife has done and how she raises our daughters in this old, school feel. Why would you not want that? Why have the anger and the hate and everything's negative? And
it's just misguided. It's trauma that's misguided, and I'm sure it has like good intentions, because, and I can not exactly relate to the boss babe culture, but I can relate to the feeling and pressure that I needed to become what I didn't have. And I think that's where these women are coming from, is like that they don't have strong male figures in their life. And because they never had the security, they try to become the security. And that is a misguided attempt. When you realize that you can relax into your feminine when you have a man who will show up for you and provide for you and have some chivalry and just be a good father and a good man. It's like, like you could just like,
breathe.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't have to be all that. That's so nice. Because it's like, it's really hard to do both roles.
I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine having to feel my wife's role, right? Like as that compassion, caring. I do my best, but it's one of those things that's just so hard for me to just dump as far as a woman would. But that's where it goes back to our roles, that where we were created as, and that's when, I get a lot of backlash because we're very traditional here, but being able to be equally yoked. But what you're saying is a woman should not have to feel that masculine role, shouldn't have to tell the kids, hey, be the disciplinary and all of that other stuff. That's where it comes into the man and the feeding off of each other. And this is why when you start dividing the families and these women have to step into these roles and their husbands aren't, it's not natural.
And they're angry about it.
They're very angry, and the animosity starts to build, and this resentment over years of you having to discipline your kids as the wife, you having to go out and chase things or have the initiative or ambition to go and pursue things, while you have this man at home that's not taking any initiative or drive or not being a disciplinary or not home because he's this.
There's a lot of fathers that are not in the home.
That's why it's so important to have a joint family where you have each other's roles and have each other's back in these certain situations, and to not undermine the other parent. It's going to be hard, to be able to have that balance, but it's the role of a father, especially in a young girl's life, it's so crucial.
It's so important.
It kills me when I see these families falling apart for finances or some stupid reasons. And it's like, man, what we're able to provide for our kids in a home under one roof is the greatest gift that you'll be able to provide to them. But right now, like, everything's just divide us as our families, and women need to be in these roles and men need to be doing this. And it's like, man, just come together, and it's all our kids need.
And so that's something that I didn't have as a teenager. What started to happen was that my dad didn't know how to relate to me.
Okay.
And my dad started going down his own path in a sort of destructive manner. So my dad has been over 10 years completely sober.
Okay.
Now, and he had a accident mountain biking, and I remember he tore his whole. We were up in Anacortes. I'd been begging my parents to take us camping. I was a teenager. I was like, I'm like the only kid I know that hasn't been camping, so I really wanted to go camping. But anyways, he got into downhill, like mountain biking a bit, and there was a log that fell, and it was like there was a chunk that was cut out of it, so there was still a trail, but he clipped it.
Oh yeah.
And he went overhead, and so his shoulder was like down here. We took him to the emergency room. They put him on painkillers.
Mm-hmm.
And the painkillers were something obviously that helped him because not helped him, but the self-medication part, right? So there was still so much trauma that he had never unpacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of men can relate to this. And I think this is a very common struggle, is that we don't talk about how we feel. Vulnerability is weakness. We've got to soldier on, right? We've got to be soldiers. That's how we show up best for our family, is we just shut up, we provide, we go through the grind, and we tuck it down deep. And we don't talk about it because that's it's weakness. And we need to be strong. But under the guise of strength is, you're falling apart as a human being, because like all the emotions that humans have, they are human emotions. Mm-hmm. There are no good emotions. There are no bad emotions. You have to experience your emotions. If you don't experience them, then I think you end up in a situation sometimes where you may end up in a situation like my dad, where you start self-medicating. You find something that kind of alleviates the pressure of trying to deal with those skeletons that are knocking on the door constantly and won't get out of your way, so you can do what you think you need to do as a man and provide. And so he got hooked. And, for years, he was on opiates. And so he kind of became a shell of himself. He would come home, he'd watch TV, wouldn't really have conversations. He was there, but not there, only providing. And
how sad when you really break it down. Like, that was his life. That's a lot of men's life right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when he was present, a lot of times it was only shaking him out of that, and it was anger.
Yeah.
He was mad, he was frustrated. There were things that he wasn't dealing with. And so it would come out on the family and, my mom, and it would come out on my mom. It would come out on us. So, that's really what I remember of my dad was like at that time there's a long time, like probably every bit of a year, where I don't think that we really spoke to each other.
Really? A year?
Maybe
living
more.
under the same roof?
Living under the same roof. Maybe
I
more.
Go a day. Her and I will get an argument. I go a day and stuff.
I know.
But
he was he was numb and he was broken, and there was so much that he hadn't worked through from his own trauma that how could he be there for me when he didn't know how to be there for himself?
100%.
He hadn't figured it out. So I don't have any blame. I just know he was very broken at that time, and that was a real low point for him. And I think he just didn't know how to show up for himself. He didn't know how to get himself out of the hole. You know, some of it had been dug for him and some of it he dug himself, probably unknowing, but he didn't know how to show up. So, you know, he was just an angry, scary, unrelatable person to me.
Did that affect you at all? Did you ever find yourself, now that you've been able to reflect as an adult, did you ever chase that attention or anything anywhere else?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I had major daddy issues. I didn't have a father that was present for formative years in my life at all as a young child. And then, you know, not in the ways that were appropriate, I think, for me as a young girl developmentally. No, I loved my dad, but when I became a teenager, again, we just were from different planets. And so he just wasn't available to any of us, but you know, we were angry at each other. We didn't understand each other. He wouldn't listen to me. Like how my mom would listen to me, he would not listen to me. It was very much like, I tell you what to do, how to show up, and you listen. If you don't listen, you are a disobedient child. And I just did not relate to that because I was used to my mom, and like she would always at least give me some let's talk about this. Let's hear each other's side. My dad was militant. He was like, no, you are a bad child. You are a bad kid.
Black
and that's
or
how I
white.
felt. Yeah, very black or white. There was no gray.
No gray.
No. And so, yeah, we would pass each other in the hallway. And I remember like one time you walk towards each other and we just pass each other like this. And we would like just turn sideways, just squeeze by each other, like not even look each other in the eye, like awkward moment, you know, of just like having to be in like such a tight space with each other.
Yeah.
So it was tough. So I think when I went out for wrestling and I was trying to become what I didn't have. I think that's why, honestly, I was so drawn to it, was because like this was a masculine thing, and I didn't have that in my life. And so it was like, well, I wanted to protect my mom too, because their relationship was not good.
Okay. Was he abusive then in the earlier ages?
Verbally.
Okay.
Yeah. He never touched, you know, my mom or myself, but punch holes in the walls. Oh yeah. Rip a door off a frame. Oh yeah. Scary. Oh yeah, where you might as well have like, I mean, it was so scary that it was almost the same as feeling like you were gonna, because you didn't know if you were, although it never happened. But like, you know, it was so scary. You know, thrash my room. You know, like if I did something, you know, and I was a good kid. Like I didn't like, especially as like through high school and stuff. You know, I played sports. I worked.
You never like backlashed or, you know, rebelled and.
I mean, not in ways that I know kids do now. I was pretty innocent.
Well, that's why I was asking.
I was pretty good at two shoes. Like I've always kind of been a rule follower.
Okay.
And I think because I had foundational love from my mom, I wasn't too far off the deep end. Like I always had someone I could talk to.
For sure.
I always had someone that could be there for me. So I felt at a loss in part of my life, but I also felt very grounded and safe in other parts. And what I will say, I want to give my dad credit in this department. I remember there's only a story I've shared one time. So this is something I'm recently like talking about. But I used to stay with my grandmother a lot, my mom worked and my dad worked. And there was this old friend of hers that his name was Walter, who was a child molester. And she knew this, but my grandma was, I can't understand it, but she was a bit demented. I don't know why she would have this person around. She was not supposed to.
This is your grandmother?
My grandmother.
Okay.
So I was sitting at in my grandmother's house, and he was not supposed to be there because my mom grew up with this man readily available, like all the time in her life. Okay. So I think you could put two and two together. So my grandmother, I know better. I won't have him over, blah, blah, blah. Well, she had him over, and I was sitting in the way that my grandmother's house is. It's kind of like you walk in the front door and there's this long room. So the couch is up against this wall, front door's here, TV's here. And over in this corner, he was sitting in the chair. And so the doorway to get into the kitchen where my grandmother was.
You have to pass him?
Yeah, you have to pass him. And I don't know, my grandma was either on the phone or something like that. And I was watching TV and he kept trying to talk to me. It was like the hair on the back of my neck went up. Like I was 5, maybe 5. And I just knew like the way that he was interacting with me, something didn't sit right. And he kept asking me to like come over and he's old. I mean, this guy's old. He's like in his 80s. So he was just weirding me out. And I just wanted to watch my cartoon. And he kept asking like, come and sit on my lap. Like, come over, like, come sit on my lap. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't know you, and I don't want to do that. And so I was scared. And eventually, after him like pestering me a while, I wanted to go find my grandmother. And so I went to go through the doorway and try to find my grandmother, whether she was in the bathroom or the kitchen, I don't know. But like, I needed to get basically through this doorway to the other side of the house. And so as I tried to like, I was like squeezing by on one side of the wall, and like he grabbed my hand. And luckily he was like an old man. I yanked my hand out, and I was just like, I was so scared at that moment. And I found my grandmother, and I don't really recall what happened there, but I know that when I went home, I told my mom, and she told my dad, and my dad scooped me up in our little red Suzuki Swift. Okay.
Okay. I'm picturing this.
Picture this, okay? Because I was home now. And he swooped me up, put me in the car, and he drove down there. And he almost buried that man. Like,
really?
He didn't put his hands on him, but like he had me in his arm. And I remember being over his chest, and he was like a military drill sergeant. I mean, he was, if you ever and there's spit flying out of his mouth. If you ever fucking touch her, I swear to God, I will fucking murder you. I will put you 6 feet in the ground. You better never fucking be here again. I never see your face. Like, and he just gave me that salvation in that moment. Like, he showed up for me in a major way that I knew that I should never have to accept someone making me feel that way. And so he really showed up for me.
What an important moment.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows you how crucial
a
father that can take charge, lead his family, and how it trickles through everybody in the house.
Yeah. He knew how to show up in that moment and protect me.
Good.
So, for all the shortcomings, there was a foundational love and trust that I think we were able to build on later when he kind of like found himself a little bit.
For sure. When did he find himself, and how did he?
So he's been, 10 or 12. So I think that he knew for a while like this was becoming a problem, but it went on for a really long time. And I would say it was in my 20s that he had some like coming off of the opiates and then relapsing. And luckily my dad he knows how to do hard shit kind of man. I mean, he really is a man's man. I'm talking like hunting, building stuff. Like, he just knows how to do hard things, but emotionally
checked out.
Yeah. And unequipped, like zero idea how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think through having his kids and through my mom, eventually we were able to like create, but he had to be willing, but create some safe spaces for conversation, and I remember there was still a lot of like uphill for a long time. A lot.
It's got a lot of years to catch up on that, for sure.
A lot of years.
But it's a start. I feel a lot of guys that I talk to, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late, man. My kids are already teenagers. My kids are grown. And it's like, dude, start now.
Yeah.
Start the repair. Okay, cool. You chalk it off as a loss for their young adult or young childhood lives that we screw up. But let's build this relationship now, and maybe you'll have a relationship with your grandkids.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be 80 years old and you're fixing it then. Mm-hmm. Like, it kills me to see and hear so many men that are, I can relate to it. That's my biggest thing. My wife's just like, I don't know this, there's this empathy and the care and the love. Mm-hmm. It's just so hard for me at times. But it's just, I feel so many other guys and that were the same way, never had the advice or ever had the help or the ability to break chains until it's too late, and they feel it's too late. And I'm just like, bro, start now. Mm-hmm. Start. You're never too late. I don't care how old your children are grown. Just start mending it. And the children should never have to fix the problem with the parents. Mm-hmm. It's the parent. Even if the child is wrong, as the parent, it's our role to do whatever it takes to have that relationship. Okay, now granted, if they're doing some crazy off the wall stuff, I'm not saying you got to bend the knee and just accept it, but if it's their rules, their way that they want their kids raised, whatever it may be, figure out that common ground and swallow your pride, make it work. It's your children. What's it worth?
Yeah. So it was maybe his late 30s that he started to figure that out.
Okay.
Because he was probably, maybe even in his 40s, to be honest, the timeline there. But he's in his early 60s now. Looks great. he works out and takes care of himself, and
Good.
I'm really proud of him because it's just such a difficult thing to come back from. It's one of the hardest addictions to overcome.
Well, not only the
really
addiction
proud of him.
part, but
Right.
that generation,
The healing part.
which none of them know how to heal from the boomer generation. None of them know how to process anything. So many chains just linked to them. And then you get us, these millennials or whatever else we fall under. And it's so hard to be able to look and just be like, okay, we could just work on this, but they'll never. But the fact that he is and taking it and, started in his 40s or whatever, but then he's in his 60s now in making those changes. I mean, dude, he's already ahead of the majority of that generation as far as just accepting change and wanting to have a relationship for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, we had over the years, like a lot of deep conversations that led to tears on both parts, which was great. I think it's good to kind of set down the armor for a little bit, and I think my dad's gotten more comfortable with that, and he's more of a healed person,
Good.
So that's great. And I guess back to the wrestling, I think at that time, though, I was trying to become what I didn't have in my life. I was trying to become the strength. What is that saying, that weak men create hard times.
Hard men create.
Yeah. And so I think because it was kind of like, not that my dad was weak at all, but he was unavailable. And so because it was hard. So then I tried to pull out what I would consider more of a masculine side of myself. I tried to lean on that myself because I saw him not showing up for my mom in the ways that she needed. She was working 2 jobs. My dad was providing, but again, it became a slippery slope once he became addicted because it's a very expensive addiction.
Yep.
So, my mom was doing all this and he was just not there. And I was like, I didn't have a conscious thought, but in hindsight, looking back, and I was like, I think I'm going to save my mom.
Which is sad to think as a child, like that's your mindset.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to be strong. I don't need that. I don't need my dad. I don't need, I will figure it out. I will, become what I don't have, essentially.
Do you think all of that was preparing you for the UFC in your that journey that you were going to take?
In a misattempted way, of course. I think that there was a lot of energy spent that didn't need to be done. I think I worked harder against the grain. I think I had to have adversity and have things not right in my life because it was what was familiar, and that was like what I used as the driver, which I don't think is necessary. I think that will honestly peel away at you faster. It's like burning the candle at both ends. So it wasn't I became a world champion because of all of that. But I think I could have been a long reigning world champion if I didn't have to go through all that.
Let's unpack that.
Yeah, because I was at my breaking point when I had my title fight. So I was already past. I was already broken.
Okay, let's jump into this.
Yeah.
So, wrestling, high school, random girl at college invites you to an MMA
club
sport.
Yep.
You're automatically hooked. So you do that for a couple of years, training with guys.
No, I did it for a couple of weeks, and I had my first fight. It was really fast.
What?
Okay, so yeah, I was like, no, not years, weeks.
Your first fight?
Yeah, I had my first fight.
What type of fight?
Like full on MMA, like what you would see in the UFC.
Within only a couple of weeks of training? How did this go?
I know. Okay, well, so I believe that destiny has the way of seeking you out. Okay, so I'll just start with that. None of this was my idea. And I was just the type of person who wasn't afraid to try out of the box things. Clearly.
So I've gathered so far.
So I was like, all right, what's the worst that can happen? And so I was training mixed martial arts, and I knew what an armbar was. I knew what a rear naked choke was. I knew what a hitchhiker, like armbar escape was. And I knew what a triangle choke was. And I would say that was it. And I knew how to wrestle. And I knew what punches were, but I was horrible. I mean, feet in concrete. I did not know how to truly move as a striker.
Okay.
Again, like 3 weeks of training. So I got invited by the guys there at the college to attend my first amateur event, like just watch. Okay. I did not have any interest in fighting.
Okay.
Zero. Like people were like, do you want to learn the striking part of like what we offer here at the club sport? And I was like, no. I was like, I do not. I have no interest in punching anybody, and I absolutely have no interest in getting hit in the face. It does not appeal to me. And I went and watched the fights, and it was the most amazing thing. I saw the spirit of the warrior, and that I could relate to. I saw that, it was an all-male card, but these guys went out there and they just gave everything that they had. It's like, I like that. I like that.
Okay.
And then Destiny popped up on the front door of my porch, essentially. They made an announcement at the end of that fight card that they were going to have an all-female fight card in 3 weeks. So when I say like, I had literally been going to the club sport like 2 days a week for 2 weeks, maybe.
So you only have like 4 to 6 training sessions in before you get presented to actually go into a fight.
I might have been like 10 or 12, because once I accepted the fight, I was like, I think I need to know how to, punch. So I started going with.
I should probably learn how to fight.
I should probably learn how to fight. Yeah. I was like, I have one coming up.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah.
To learn how to throw a punch.
Yeah. So I literally signed up that night, not knowing what I was getting myself into. I was 19 years old, never having had a fight in my life. And I started traveling with the group there at Central Washington University to Yakima to train. So Yakima MMA. So I mean,
now you're taking it serious.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. Okay. I was basically a pro at the time. No, and I went out in my first fight, and I fought a gal named Liz Posner, who was a kickboxer, and her and her husband owned a school up in like BC, Canada.
Okay.
So they had come down to Wenatchee, Washington, and I had come over from Ellensburg, Washington to Wenatchee. I got $50 for my first fight. It was like food and gas, which I was stoked, actually.
For sure.
So funny. Like how I was like,
Felt
oh
special.
man, I didn't even think I was going to get any money. I was so broke. And so yeah, we're in a boxing ring because of course, they didn't really do the cages back then. It's on a reservation.
Always.
Yeah, it's on a reservation, and people are like smoking in the crowd and yelling asinine comments towards the female fighters, and it was that kind of atmosphere. So I went out in the first round, and I remember I took her down so easy. She stood with a really tall stance and her, everything high, and I was like, took her down, and I was like, whoa, because I just in my life had never experienced a takedown that was as easy as that. It was like slicing through warm butter.
Okay.
So I took her down, but I think I just like wrestle fucked her the whole time because I didn't know how to do anything else. So I just like laid on her for like 2 minutes. And then in the second round, she came out and she put me in a Muay Thai clinch, and I didn't know what that was.
Okay.
So I'm sure you know what it was, but in case the listeners don't know, basically it's like they grab on behind your head with their hands and the forearms go on the collarbone and they kind of hold your head, and she begins kneeing my face. Yeah.
This is new.
Yeah. Oh, I had no idea what it was. So I'm still trying to wrestle her. So my arms are out like this, and I'm trying to grab her legs, and I'm watching these knees come blazing, up towards my face, past my face. One lands on my forehead. I'm trying to grab her legs, but I don't know how to get out of this because she's got this like pressure on my collarbone. So it's like I can't exactly go through it, but I am driving, trying to get down to her legs. And one comes straight up through the center and clean on, smashes my nose. I hear crunch and then warmth down my face. And I'm still trying to take her down because I don't know what else to do. And I think at that point I'm driving so hard and we're up against the ropes that I kind of managed to like push through this hold she has, and I'm kind of on her legs. But I've been driving down to try to get out of this hold so much that I'm like actually at her knees and like kind of sliding down past her ankle. So she steps 1 foot out and she comes around onto my back and she gets her hooks in. And she's trying to choke me, so I'm like turtle shelled up. I've got my neck tucked into my shoulders, and I'm on my elbows and I'm on my knees, and I'm like trying to just take in what it is. And I'm watching blood pour out of my nose, and I'm watching this pool of blood steadily grow in front of my face. And it was like the most surreal moment while I'm defending this choke and everything. But in that moment, I was really in the eye of the storm. It was like a very calm moment for me because I was really processing like one thought at a time. And it was like,
I'm bleeding a lot.
Yeah, I'm bleeding a lot and I have to kick her ass now. And that's really when I think the fighter was born, if I'm being honest with you.
No shit.
That moment right there, because I had a moment to quit. I easily could have been like, tap the mat and be like, done. And I was like, oh no, like
this is it.
This is it. Like I'm getting her off of my back and I'm going to punch her, the living daylights out of her.
How did the rest of the fight go?
Well, I did exactly that. I peeled a hook. I hula hooped her off, like got her down in front of me. I mean, that's something I knew how to do from wrestling. And so I was in my comfort zone there, but I don't think I had punched her like at all in the fight. Again, because like I didn't know what I was doing. But in that moment, I was like, no. It's like, now I know. Like, we're in a fight. Like, this is not a wrestling match.
Yep.
And I had her down in the guard position, so she was on her back, and I stood up to my feet, and I reached to the ceiling, and I just started raining down punches. And I remember there was blood all over her. Like,
you're pouring on her.
I was pouring blood all over her. So I remember like blood all over her cheek, and I remember her like this and her arms, and I'm just like, gorilla hammering her away.
Just hammer fist coming down. Yep.
And the round ended because there were 2 minute rounds. So all this has happened inside 2 minutes.
Which is an eternity for even a trained athlete. And here you are just months into this adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the round ends. I go back to my corner, and I was staring back into like ghosts, because my corner was like, they did not know what to do.
There's just a bunch of college kids that invited you there. And now they're in the middle of this bloody ass fight. A
woman's fight, because they didn't do that back then. So it's one thing to see this from a man, but they were really taken back at the fact that I had like this broken nose and blood all over me. I looked like this insane savage warrior woman, but they were men and with the protective instinct. So they didn't know.
They're conflicted on it.
They're very conflicted. And someone throws a towel in on my behalf. I didn't want that. I was ready to go out there. Yeah. Because I knew in that moment I believe I had broken her in that moment, because I saw the look on her face and she was like, oh shit. Like, if I did that and she's like in the condition that she's in, and she's coming back stronger, and she's now like turned the tides of this fight. I've really like pushed a button, and I knew like she knew what was going to happen in round 3
for sure.
And so it was such a bummer, but I was such a young, not confident girl. Like, I figured that these guys kind of knew. I was more heartbroken. I wasn't angry at them. A lot of people think I was angry at them. I was like, I wasn't angry at them. I thought that they knew something that I didn't know, that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't go back out there in that 3rd round and like do what I knew I could do in my heart.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I didn't prepare enough. Like, anything you want to do good in life, you got to prepare for. I was like, so that's the only thing. It's like, so I have to start preparing. I have to take another fight. And I knew in that moment that I needed to do this again.
Huh?
Immediately.
No kidding.
And my mom found me in the back. She had drove over from Tacoma, Washington, which is where we grew up. So she came to Wenatchee, and she found me bleeding over a trash can in the back room.
How'd she take that?
My poor mom. Oh, my poor mom. Well, I think I aged my mom 10 years,
For sure.
It's like her baby.
For sure.
So she's like, come on, honey, like, we'll get you, let's go. Like, I'm going to take you home. And so, and this is I think it was December. Yeah, it was December. And so there's snow all over the ground. We have to go over the mountain pass. And I remember we got pulled over at one point, and all I had to do was like show the officer like this, and he was like, you're fine, keep going to the hospital, So I was like, slow down, Mom, but she was just trying to get us home. And then it's funny, is my Opie, my dad's dad. Okay. Chauvinistic is fair to say, sexist, old school, but old school in like not a chivalrous way, more like, just like women should do this and men, don't have to, whatever. He was visiting. They were visiting. And so I came home and I looked like a lion and a raccoon had a baby. That's what my face looked like. These giant black eyes. And my nose had none of these indentations. It was just like square out to my cheeks, So I was like, had a big flat lion nose. And I remember having to see my grandparents, and like, it was like the worst combination of everything. And I remember hearing the talks like, you know, you shouldn't, like, why are you letting her do that? And they were like scolding my parents and my dad. And my mom's like, let her, like, she's 19 years old. Like, what are we gonna, you know, what are we gonna say? Well, hopefully she learned, you know, good. Thank God she learned her lesson and it wasn't worse. And I just remember thinking to myself, because like I was upstairs and I just remember I was sitting at the top of the stairs, like listening to them talk about it. And I was just like tail between my legs. I was like so embarrassed, but I knew I was going to do it again.
Oh yeah.
I knew
nothing happened.
I was like, I'm going to prove them. Like I'm going to go out there and I'm at least win a fight. I need to know like that I can do this. And I felt robbed in the opportunity to win that fight. So I was like, there's no way that I'm leaving this sport. So I think I only had the intention of doing it like one more time.
No
it
kidding.
wasn't like I was like, oh, there was no career for women. And this wasn't even a thought. This wasn't even no, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I mean, we want to look back at it now, and you know, you look at all these high schools, and there's full women's, these young girl teams, and dude, there's a new female UFC fighter every week popping up, and all, and they're at every gym, and so it's hard to think back, like, dude, when I said at the beginning of the show,
2005.
yeah, you were literally the tip of the iceberg of this whole entire movement. So yeah, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going UFC, I'm going to go WWE afterward, and all these.
I still didn't even really know, but like, again, I think I had seen the UFC in passing, but it didn't even register that it was like the same thing that I was doing. It was how unfamiliar. I was not a fan. Yeah. I was not a fight fan.
Yep.
So for me, there was no opportunity for women. There wasn't even hook and shoot and Bodog, like for the old school fans. That didn't even exist yet. Like at that moment, it's
no shit.
It might have just been, it might have just been coming on the scene right around that, maybe like 06. I don't think that it was there like when I had that fight. If it was brand spanking new with having any female fighters on it. And there were a couple fighters that came that were a little bit older than me that had been doing it maybe like a little bit longer than I had at that time. But there was no strike force for women. There was no UFC. There was none of that.
Nothing.
No. So like female fighting wasn't a thing.
Okay, so you go in, you wanted to get one more fight to feel what it was like to win. How did this go?
I won. Yeah.
That was it?
Yeah.
You got
I won.
Taste?
Yeah. No, I won. I was dominant. I think I went out and I took the girl down and I TKO'd her. So, and then I was like,
you got a taste of it.
Yeah, I was like, I got to keep doing this. I love it.
So where did the transition go from high school wrestling, screwing around at college and some MMA stuff, to now you're like a prospect or getting even talked to or talk about the UFC? When did that start to come into play?
It was a long time. Well, it was actually 2013. So if I can run through the course of everything, basically, I had 6 amateur fights, and then I got called by Hook and Shoot, Bodog, to be in an all-female tournament. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I would love to be a part of that. So my coaches were like, okay, great. Well, we'll do that. So we flew out to Evansville, Indiana. It was a one-night tournament. My first fight was against hometown Jan Finney, who at the time was the hardest hitting woman in MMA. She was getting a lot of promotion for, a lot compared to what we were used to getting as women.
For sure, yeah.
So she was really being pushed as like the one to win this tournament. She had the most experience, and she was my first draw.
Oh, God.
So I had my first fight with her, and we went 3 rounds, and we're shooting the shit after the fight. Like, fighters do. Like, you're waiting for the stuff to come in. And at that time, anyways, we were in a boxing ring again, because I still had yet to fight in a cage. And I was like, oh man, your leg kicks, like they were hard. They were so good. And she's like, you're wrestling. She's like, you remind me of Janelle Marquez. I think is someone that she had maybe trained with or fought before. And so we were just kind of there, and we're kind of like, it's getting awkward, like we complimented each other. Good job on the fight. We don't know who won yet. And it was getting awkwardly long. Like, why there wasn't some announcement, or, so we're kind of like, what's going on? And they're like, the ref was like, they're having trouble deciding who won. Like, they won't agree. The judges will not agree. So he said, what we've determined would be best is if you ladies go another round.
Okay. So as a fighter, you go you said 3 rounds?
Yeah.
Fight ends. So you're on the decline of peaking of this adrenaline survival mode. exhausted. You've now, I don't want to say cooled down, but you've had enough time to, get the bugs that all been worked out. And then now you're told you have to fight another round again.
Correct.
How's that in the fighting world?
Well, you got to be ready for anything, right?
Clearly.
I didn't expect that one, though. That was a curveball.
Yeah.
But we fought another round.
You fought your ass off then.
Yeah, I did. And I remember my corner at the time, like, if you can give me one, I mean, because we're tired, like, and I had a horrible weight cut because I did not know how to cut weight. And I had been struggling with an eating disorder at the time. So I was just puffy and low of energy. I was not doing things right by any means. So I cut a lot of weight and I was in the sauna a lot and I barely made the weight and I suffered. I really struggled in that weight cut.
For sure.
So after 3 rounds, I'm pretty tired, but luckily I'm young, I'm maybe 20 at that point, 20, 21. And, so I go back and she goes back to her corner and ding, we fight another round. And at the end of that, we're like, whew, okay, wow, good work, kind of complimenting each other again, kind of waiting, twiddling our thumbs. And
Don't
we're like,
tell me it happened again.
The referee is over there and then, there's all this conversation. We're like, scratching our heads like, oh gosh, okay. So the referee comes over and says, okay, the judges will not agree on who has won this fight. So you have 2 options. Either you can fight one more round or you can allow me to make the decision.
Why you?
Well, not me. I'm sorry. As the referee, I'm speaking as the referee.
Oh, he's just
so the referee.
Pick?
Yeah, the referee was like, he was telling us you can either both choose to fight one more round, or the judges, since they won't agree and they are in like major, debate. Again, we're on like a reservation. This is not like there must have been 4 judges or one judge that saw it one way and they would not. They're all friends or something. They were just like, this is bullshit. Like they would not agree.
Do you think they were just trying to get her because she was the hometown favorite, and then
maybe
you were actually holding your own and you were supposed to just be walked over?
Yeah, like maybe one of them was like, you guys, this is bullshit. Like this girl wasn't supposed to win, but she is. And like, you can't give it to, maybe there was one person or I don't know, 2 people advocating, or maybe there was an even number of judges. I honestly don't recall, but what I know is that we fought a 4th round and it's nowhere on the record. It's like, if you look, it says we only fought 3 rounds and that footage of the 4th round doesn't exist. Yeah, it doesn't show. So it's like it never happened, but it did. And I think it made them look bad because it was a tournament. Yeah. Like one of us had to fight again. So for them to just like make us fight another round.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. This is your first actual fight in the tournament.
Correct. Okay, and my pro debut.
Oh God, what a horrible experience.
So we're waiting and her and I look at each other and we're both just smoked. Like we are exhausted. And we're like, one of us is going to have to fight again. So I guess we let the referee raise whoever's hand. Best seat in the house, right? So he raises my hand.
No shit.
Yeah. And I just, fell to my knees and I was just like, oh my gosh, I took out the one. Like I took out the number 1 seed. Like I should have this, right? I should have this. But I fought Caitlin Young, who is a phenomenal kickboxer. And this is nothing against her, but in her first fight, she fought a girl that had never fought before. And she knocked her out inside of a minute. Okay. So she was fresh. And
oh, yeah.
So you know where this is going.
Okay, so you have now fought in 4 rounds.
Yeah. Against the veteran.
Against the number 1 contender. And you end up winning that. And then your next opponent knocked out her opponent in the first round. So she's fresh. She hasn't even... Damn, that sucks.
And I think I had like maybe 30 minutes before I was fighting again. So I saw ice on my leg. When they called me, they're like, "You're up."
In your legs.
Yeah, I was like icing. I shouldn't have been icing my leg, but I didn't know. I was like, because I was fighting again. I think I probably shouldn't have been icing. So I like all of a sudden like, okay, like you're up. I was like, so I like threw the ice aside and I was like trying to jump around and get my legs all back and warm and stuff, But honestly, I think I just had too much of a dump in the first
100%
fight. Yeah. And so I go out there and I try to take her down. And it was so funny. Like, you have to watch the fight because, I was like moving around like this. Like, I literally still didn't know how to strike. Like, this is like a year and I was still like just trying to like be a wrestler. And I thought you have to have your hands glued to your cheeks. And like, I was so stiff. And I get in on her legs and I go to like pick her up. And because we're on a rope, she loops her arm over the rope. So I lift both legs, but I'm like, why is she not going down? And that was basically it. That's what I had for that fight. And then she defends the takedown from there, and then I'm just a sitting duck. And she like knocked me out clean with a head kick.
Was this your first time getting knocked out?
Yeah.
What do you remember just coming
Ragdoll.
through? Ragdoll.
Literally. You should watch it because it's like,
Do you have
I
this
just
footage?
literally, it's out there. Caitlin Young versus Miesha Tate. I always wanted to get that one back, but I never did. Because I was like, damn, I know on a fresh night, this could be different.
Yeah.
But no, she knocked me clean out. Highlight reel, like arm ragdolled in the ropes. Like I was out. So I don't remember coming to, but what I remember was, so I was with my ex, the one that I had like the long-term toxic relationship with. So he was out there and he was cornering me, and he was telling me about the first fight, and it was like a story I'd never heard before. I didn't remember the first fight with Jan Finney. He's like, do you remember, like, she came out in like a Native American outfit and like, like had a, I don't know, but she came out and I was like, what? I was like, so like I won the first fight and I just lost like this one, and I was like trying to connect the dots, but it took me honestly a few days before I feel like it really came back to me. Oh yeah, it knocked me out of this realm for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I didn't win that tournament. So I was 1-1. I was undefeated for like all of like 30 minutes in my pro debut.
It worked out for you at least.
It worked out. It was good. It was good contrast. I got to experience, the good, the high and the low all in the same night.
For sure. Then from there, I mean, it was just off to the races of just tournaments and learning and bettering your skills, or what?
So my next fight was in Strikeforce.
Okay.
And
how big was Strikeforce then? Was it pretty new?
They had been around for a while, but they had just started in 2008. So this was 2000, let's see, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it was sometime like maybe November of 2007, I think was when this pro tournament was. And then they started having female fights right around the same time too. They only had a few.
Yeah.
So Elena Maxwell and Gina Carano fought.
Yep.
And Gina won. And Elena Maxwell is a 2-time K1 kickboxing world champion training under Kung Lee from San Jose, which is where, she was Elena Beef Maxwell, she was like at that time, she's like her lower, like her hips and legs were just like beefy. And so Strikeforce is based out of San Jose. So you get the picture. They find me. I just been knocked out by Caitlin Young. Okay. So they find me somehow. I was training under Dennis Hallman at the time, which I don't know if you know, but he fought in the UFC for a little bit. And so I was training there, and somehow I get the opportunity, I don't remember how this happened, but to fight her next. So right after getting knocked out from Caitlin, I get the biggest opportunity of my life to fight on HD Net. I think it was on HD. Yeah, it was on HD Net.
So this is huge.
Yeah, 2008. For Strikeforce, and it's a one-off contract, so they're not even fighting. They're not signing me to like be a fighter of theirs. Like I am coming in to lose to Elena Maxwell in her hometown, and I'm fighting up a weight class. So I'm fighting 145.
God, they're just throwing you in the lion's den.
Totally, and I was terrified.
Rightfully so.
I was terrified because I had just gotten knocked out, and I'm like, on paper, Elena's a better kickboxer. She's more accomplished than Caitlin on paper, and I'm fighting her up a weight class, and my coaches think that this is a good idea. So I'm like, okay. I trained so hard. Like I trained like a mad woman because I was so scared that if I left one stone unturned, like she was going to head kick me and knock me out too. And I desperately did not want that to happen again.
Yep.
So I worked so hard, and I went down there, and I was like a fly on shit. Like I was like glued to her. Like as soon as the bell, like we touched gloves, and I would just like run and like stick myself to her because I wanted no space. And I took her down, I think in the first like 15 seconds of almost every single round. So I got her down, and then the whole time was on the ground. Like we were never standing up.
Which you're safe.
Yeah. It's like as I was connected
the last
to
thing
her,
you need is distance, so she can catch you can catch a round.
I
kick.
beelined for her wherever she was. I was a heat-seeking missile. I was like, I have to be connected to her at all times. I cannot have zero space. Zero space. So I took her down, and I almost got her in an armbar, I think, in the second round. It was like fully extended, and it kind of looked like she tapped if you look at the video, but either way, like the bell rang like a second or two later. We went all 3 rounds, and I won the decision.
Oh, no shit. How did that feel?
So good. Like, it was redemption.
Is there... I asked this question because I got to watch points in my daughter's fighting careers where you have the doubt and you're like, oh, they're so much better. And then those wins level you up. Was that one of those like, oh shit, I actually, yeah, I am. Because I watched that happen with my daughters where there's like, hey, you're cleaning house and all these tournaments. Like when you're gonna start believing in yourself, and there comes that point where it just clicks, where it's like, okay, I am this woman, I am this fighter. Was that this moment, or did it take more?
It took more.
It took more.
It took more. Yeah,
Really?
I was relieved. That's what I was in that moment.
Okay.
I was
And you
scared,
survived.
and then I was relieved. I was like, "Oh, thank God!" I still didn't even know if I was that good, but I was like, "Thank God I survived!" Like, I just thought I survived. I was like, "Whew." I didn't get knocked out. That was a win. So, yes. And then
This is hilarious hearing it from this point of view, because you just look, you're like, she's the baddest freaking chick to walk in the ring, and then it's like you're over here like, oh my God, I survived.
Yeah,
Okay.
honestly, I was just happy I survived, because I thought I might have the same fate happen again.
Okay.
And honestly, I wasn't so scared of the knockout physically. It wasn't a physical thing. It was more just working and wanting something so bad, and then just being like, just in the worst possible way, publicly humiliated. You know what I mean?
Okay, so real quick, what is the worst way to lose a fight? Tapping or getting knocked out?
I think getting knocked out. Those always make the highlight reels.
Yeah.
So much more than a submission, you know?
All right. Yeah, you're right. It's more of a pride thing.
Yeah.
I'm one of those where I'm like, I'm not going to tap, one of those.
That's true. Well, I mean, I think for people who do the sport, when you tap, you give up.
Yeah.
Like you make a choice to give up. When you get knocked out, you don't make a choice to give up. But I think the way that the fans perceive it and the audience, and like the shock value of getting knocked out is it's going to have those reverberations for 10 times longer than ever getting submitted.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's terrifying ending up on a highlight reel when you're on the receiving end.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's motivation for a
I did
fighter.
not want to lose. I was like, please, dear God, tell me that I did enough to, beat this beefy woman in her hometown up a weight class. And I did. So
and that still wasn't enough to realize that you might actually be on to something here and have a skill at this.
I lacked the foresight, to be honest, or even the process. I was just doing something that I loved. I didn't think that there was a future in this. I still didn't even think that there was, really.
That's right. I keep forgetting that you weren't chasing the UFC.
No, I wasn't at all. So like it took a little time. I will say after that fight, not like right in winning it, but a few weeks later, I got a call from Strikeforce and they wanted to sign me. So they signed me to a multi-fight deal. And that was kind of the moment I remember being like, wait, what? Like, I think I was going to make $1,500 to show and $1,500 to win. That's what I was going to make. Because I think I made $1,000 and $1,000 to fight Elena. Yeah, before that, the tournament was $500. You got $500 if you won, and I think maybe nothing if you lost.
So now that you're like, oh shit, okay, I'm enjoying
like,
this. Now we get to make a little money.
I was like, this is kind of official. Like, this is like getting hired for a job. This is like, I'm contracted. What?
And you're ready to now. I mean, are you processing? Okay, Strikeforce is wanting me to jump on in this multi-fight contract. Like, is this something that I want to pursue, or did you give it much thought, or was this something that you were 100%?
It was a no-brainer for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in.
Okay.
I was like, this is great. You mean that I can like do this and actually make a little bit because that was good money for me back then.
Yeah.
$1,500. I was like, so if I win, I get $3,000. I was like, yes, sign me up. So I was there for it, and I fought Zoila Frosto from Fresno, another hometown girl, striker, and I beat her, submitted her in an armbar, and then I fought. I was supposed to fight Kim Couture, who was Randy Couture's wife at the time, and
that dude is terrifying by himself.
Oh my gosh, I'm like honestly like undercover one of his biggest fans. I love Randy Couture, and he was the first person in the sport that I modeled myself after or like looked up to.
Okay.
I remember after having my first fight, never really watching the UFC, I kind of got into the culture, and so they invited me over, and I watched Randy Couture fight and I was like, that guy. I was like, that's my inspiration. That's who I want to be. I want to be him. Because he was so humble and he was so amazing. And and he was a wrestler. I was like, wow. I was like, that's my person. Like, that's who I want to be. And then I ended up training at Extreme Couture. That's where I've been for most of my career now. So
no shit.
Randy's just like one of the nicest people. So humble and
That's
such
awesome.
a badass.
It's good
Still
to
to this day. Like he pops in there and like I'm like get so excited when he comes in because he's always got such great stuff that he shows.
Yep.
Such great upper body lock stuff. So I fought so I was supposed to fight his wife, which they were going through divorce at the time. And so she ended up pulling. And then I fought Sarah Kaufman, who was a savage. She had way better takedown defense. And I only got her down in the second round. And otherwise she kind of battered me up and I lost. And then, I don't know, from there I just kept fighting. I was the longest signed female to Strikeforce prior to going to the UFC. So, yeah.
What an accomplishment.
It was pretty cool, huh?
So you're working your way through the ranks. You're slowly building a name with Strikeforce. What was the moment when the UFC reached out?
It was after I lost to Ronda. So, yeah.
Can we talk about Ronda real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
We all hated each other.
Yeah.
Do you still hate each other?
No, I've let go of hate. I don't think that's a word, but I'm not like her biggest fan or anything by any means, I still like carry the opinions that I have, which is that I'm grateful, honestly, very grateful to have a rival like her in my career.
I mean, if you're going to have a rival,
let it be. Yeah. She was perfect.
Right?
Yeah. She was perfect.
And what a perfect match for two women from two different styles, then to have this rivalry for the sport, which drew so much attention to you two just at each other's throats over everything.
It was perfect.
Yeah, it was.
I honestly I would not go back and change it if I had the chance to do that because I learned so much through that rivalry.
Where did it start? What was the moment where you were like, man, fuck this bitch?
Well, I think when she was just so sassy. So I remember that when we were starting out, when I say we, I mean the few women that were doing this, there was an underlying camaraderie.
Yeah, you were the first. You guys are all the pioneers. You think there would be this?
Yeah. So there was.
Who wants to be the best out of the pioneers?
Right. So there was this original group of pioneers that I had kind of become familiar with, and granted, we were fighting each other, momentarily in the fights, but otherwise, everyone was really cool. Like all the women were really great, and we kind of understood that we were fighting this together. Yeah. Collectively, like we were trying to get somewhere collectively. But Rhonda really came in with the opposite mentality. She's like, I don't give a fuck about any of these bitches. Like, I'm just gonna, do me, and like I don't care. Like, and so I think she rubbed, originally like a lot of the women kind of the wrong way, but she knew what she was doing and she had the confidence to do it. And she wasn't. Now I realize like it was really smart, her approach, because she had the skill to back it up. Mm-hmm. But if you were one of the women who like started this sport and you had been doing this for a while, and like you always were used to like the women being having sportsmanship, you were kind of like, who she thinks she is, like so disrespectful. But then we ended up fighting each other. I was the champion at the time. I fought Marloes Kunin, another veteran, somebody that I idolized. And there's one time in my career only one time that I ever thought, I hope I don't have to fight that person. And it was like a momentary thought, but like an intrusive thought. You just get it. And you're just like, I shouldn't have had that thought. Like that wasn't right. But it was a real thought. And it was against Marloes Kunin. I watched her fight Cyborg. And as impressed with Cyborg as I was, for whatever reason, I was more impressed with Marloes.
Really?
Yes, because
I feel like Cyborg is terrifying.
Well, she is terrifying. And I think I knew that. And she was running through women. I mean, like running through.
It was
And they were all like getting scared, but Marloes was not scared. She went out there and she cracked Cyborg. I mean, I think it would have put any other woman down. But of course it was Cyborg. So I just remember seeing how hard she fought against Cyborg with like no doubt of confidence in herself, when all the other women seemed to have, they just get demolished, or they just didn't have the confidence, or they'd wither. And like that wasn't Marloes.
You know what? You saying that, I wonder if because you're in the sport long enough, you can tell immediately when somebody's in or out of it.
Yeah.
And you're watching these women step into the ring with Cyborg, and there's almost, I'm sure you could pick up on this fear and terror in their eyes, which dude, if I'm a grown ass man and I cross her in a freaking alleyway, I'm turning around, right? Like, let's just call a spade a spade. That woman's terrifying. But the fact that you saw her opponent, just the look in her eye of, you're going to kill me or I'm killing you when we come out of here. That's more terrifying than who's they're fighting. When almost the kamikaze mentality where that woman is looking at this cyborg with zero fear in her eye. How's she going to look at me?
100%. That was what it was. Cause like we knew Cyborg had every right to have that confidence.
Yeah.
Marloes didn't, but she did. And I loved it. But it was like so I was so in awe of her, and I was so inspired by her tenacity and like that kind of like, where did that come from? Like, that's not, who are you? You know, like,
born? Is that trained into you?
You're a savage. Like, you're a warrior. Like, you have all my respect. And so I kind of idolized her in a way.
For sure.
And so in that moment, early on in my career, I think I'd only had like maybe 2 fights in Strikeforce, maybe. And I saw her fight Cyborg, and I was like, wow. I was like, I hope I never have to fight that woman. And I was like, that was an intrusive thought. And then a couple of years later, I was fighting her for the title. And my whole perspective had totally changed. I was ready then.
Yeah.
I knew. I was like, okay, like when your idols become your rivals.
It's the greatest accomplishment.
It's the greatest accomplishment. And you're doing it right. And I was so excited to be there with her, fighting her, because I was like, this is a dream. Like, this is what I wanted. I wanted to be on her level. And at the time when I saw her fight Cyborg, I wasn't yet. But I worked my ass off, and I was inspired by her, and I was inspired by Gina, and I was inspired by all these women around me and men. You know, like there wasn't that many female role models for me, especially really early, like prior to Strikeforce. So it was Randy. Yeah. You know, it was men were my role models. And then these women came along, and I was like, wow, they're so inspiring. That's like how I want to be. And then I ended up fighting her, and I ended up beating her in the 4th round with a Von Flue choke.
A what?
No, it was a Von Flue choke. I lied. It was a head and arm choke.
Okay.
Yeah. But a Von Flue choke is kind of similar in the sense that you put the pressure on the shoulder, like the shoulder and the neck. But it's like, you know, when someone gets you, what's the other thing that they call it? A phantom choke?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phantom choke. But that wasn't true. I did not beat her with that one. I beat her with the head and arm choke.
Before we took a break, we were talking about how your idols become your rivals. I mean, what an accomplishment, what a feeling that you're looking up to these women that you're coming up through the ranks with, as far as being this professional, on your path to becoming this professional fighter. I mean, I'm talking on the UFC level. Well, I mean, how does that feel, catching your rivals? Or I'm sorry, how does it feel catching your idols?
I felt right. It felt right. It felt like I belonged there. Yeah, it felt like I belonged there, and I knew that I just knew I was going to win that fight. You know, in all fairness, there are fights that I knew I was going to win that I didn't win. I
was just going to ask you, have you ever stepped in a fight knowing there's no way? Did you ever, so let me ask,
Yeah.
Has there ever been a fight that you stepped in the ring and you were just praying to God that they're surviving?
Yeah, yes, there was a fight when I fought Raquel Pennington, and it wasn't because it was like a physical beatdown or anything. It was because I couldn't show up. I couldn't get present. I wasn't there. I was so lost and broken and fighting for all the wrong reasons, and I had truly lost myself along the way, and I was not there for that fight. And so I was just kind of like praying for it to almost be over. Oh, okay. Because I couldn't get there. I was like, can this just be over? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was actually when I retired. But
so it was one of your last fights?
Yeah, before coming back. Yeah, because I had retired for like 4.5 years. Yeah. Had kids and then came back. But I think we're going to talk about Rhonda a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing. So I think we were talking about like how she burst on the scene, and and then fighting her. So when you asked, was there ever a fight that you like, well, I mean, almost all the fights, like, you're going to win. Sometimes you don't win, but you have to know you're going to win. But honestly, when I fought Ronda, the first time I fought Ronda, I knew it was going to be really difficult to win. I wasn't under any illusion. Like, I knew that she was very, very good, but I believed that I would win.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say the second time that I fought Ronda, it was a little bit more of like, I hoped I was going to win. Because I knew that I didn't have the right training for her, like deep down.
She was different. The way she fought, the way she moved.
I didn't have partners. That could mimic Ronda. And so because of that, it wasn't that I didn't train my ass off or train hard, but I knew that there were things that she had that I hadn't seen. I wasn't able to prepare for.
Which is, does that plant doubt, the little mustard seed, and does it start to grow over time?
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, because you know that there may be something that you're not totally prepared for. And I hadn't totally figured out her armbar or like how to totally defend it.
So quick.
There wasn't like a way that I was like, defending every time in practice. It was like so good. Like my armbar defense wasn't like top 100%, top 1%. And so because of that, I was like, well, I just better not get there, but that's easier said than done, and
Very.
So it was hard not to get thrown or to, it just, the style matchup wasn't favorable for me. And she was so elite. And at the time, there's nobody to mimic her.
Yeah.
No one. There were 0 women that were on her level that were fighting as well. And the guys that would come over weren't smooth like her.
Mm.
They were more like muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd muscle you over. And you're like, well, it didn't feel like that when I fought Ronda the first time. There was no muscling. Like she was timing and calculation and smooth. Nothing was forced. She was able to feel where your weight was off and use it against you. And just very high level. So I think the second time that I fought her, it was more of like, I have to believe that I can do this. I have to believe that I can. And I believed that there was a way. I just didn't know how. I didn't know how I was going to get there.
Yeah.
I wanted to, and I believed that I could find a way, but it was not there was no clear path. It was just like, I'm going to have to try to make this fight as ugly as possible and hope to God I don't get caught in an armbar. Like, I've tried my best to prepare, but I'm not 100% confident that I've seen everything that Ronda brings because I don't have the people giving me the looks.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So you guys go back and forth in the, I don't want to say Pride.
UFC?
No, before prior.
Strike Force. Yeah.
So that's where you guys get introduced to each other.
Yep.
When does the UFC come into play? Because this is obviously now the UFC's looking at growing the female side of things. You guys are making a name in Strike Force and all these little one-off, knockoff tournaments and things like that. So the traction's now coming with females into MMA. You guys are having a little name for yourselves at this point, and then now the UFC reaches out. How does this work?
Yeah, basically, Dana and Lorenzo were watching that fight, and I think we had a hunch that they might be watching because the UFC had already announced that they were acquiring Strikeforce. So we did know that was coming.
Got it.
At the time of that fight.
Oh, that's right. Okay, this was that. Okay.
So we knew Strikeforce was going to be no more, and we knew that women did not exist in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
The UFC was buying Strikeforce, so we were like, what does that mean?
Okay.
Well, I was like, well, it might mean that this is make or break. Like this fight. This fight may change the mind of Dana White, who assumes that women are mismatched. Like, that's what he said, that he didn't like women's MMA because the first and only fight that he'd really seen at that time was a horrible mismatch. And he assumed the talent pool wasn't deep enough to have competitive like divisions of women. So he's like, I don't want mismatches. I don't want that. There's just not enough women fighting. So I thought, well, I think I could change his mind. I remember having that thought consciously. And that stemmed from wrestling.
Yeah.
You talk about like knowing you can do hard things. that was one of those moments where I changed the perspective of all the males around me. Not because they were bad guys and thought, women are weak and whatnot. It's just they honestly thought that women didn't do that. They just never saw it really done.
It was so new. Yeah.
It was so new. So they never saw women wrestling. They never saw, and then in fighting and whatnot. So I remember when I was wrestling, I won the coaches award my senior year, just given out to like one athlete who kind of exemplifies what it means to be a wrestler. And I was like, man, that was still to this day, I would say my biggest accomplishment was winning the coaches award in high school.
No shit.
Because it was the precursor. It taught me something as a very young woman, that nothing is set in stone. Nothing is written forever. Like, you can always rewrite the chapter. You can always write a new chapter. And these guys that tried to get me to quit, that were such jerks in the beginning, just didn't know what they didn't know. Yeah. They didn't know what they didn't know. They just genuinely thought that girls were not cut out to do this. And I changed their mind. So much so that they became like a brotherhood to me. So learning that, then I remember when Dana was so adamant, I was like, oh, he just doesn't know what he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know that we can be so awesome and badass. Like, I didn't take offense to it.
Yeah.
But I took a mission to it. And I thought, well, if he ever watches me fight, I think I'll change his mind. And maybe some people would say that's arrogant, but it was the truth. Like, I really believed that I could change his mind with a worthy opponent. And Ronda was. She was the rival. She was, she brought a different eyes. She brought different, the controversy. And our rivalry was so big, so massive that, sure enough, Dana was watching that. And Lorenzo was kind of already on board. But Dana was like, no. Like, every interview that they would ask about when will they bring women to the UFC? Never. Never, never, never. Not going to happen. But then he watched my fight, and, in that ended in an arm bar. Of course, my arm was like bent backwards like 90%, and I was like refusing to tap. And then eventually I did, because I was like, couldn't get out of it. And my arm was just being like mangled. So I tapped, and it was such a bummer. But a couple weeks later, he called me.
Dana White did?
Dana White called me. Yeah. And he was like, I was like, is this Dana White? It was on my phone. I was like, what? And it was like, are you sitting down? And I was like, sat down. And it was like, I'm going to give you a $50,000 bonus. And that was more money than I had seen in all of my fight career, all my fights combined. So that was life-changing money for me. And then he told me he was going to bring women into the UFC.
Well, how did that feel?
It was just like, finally, like, and it felt like that I had already manifested this. And it did not work out the way that I intended.
Never does.
I wanted to be the champion, coming into the UFC. I wanted so badly to win against Ronda, who I thought was just a brat. And I wanted it so bad. And so here I was nursing this, arm injury. I had grade 2 and 3 tears of my tricep and bicep.
Oh, from Ronda's arm bar?
And I had avulged, that's the terminology they used, the tendons on both sides of my arm from the bone. So basically ripped chunks of bone off with my tendons. So my tendons were like loose, just floating. With
bone attached to them.
With bone attached to them, which was actually a good thing, because the bone grew back into the bone. They reattached themselves.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that's what they told me, because they said that if it had ripped the tendon clean off the bone, that I would have had to have surgery, and it would have been extremely difficult to reattach. So.
And here you are, just all bandaged up, braced up, and
just heartbroken. I mean, I was heartbroken. I wanted so bad to win that fight, and it was everything to me. I had tied my identity so heavily into winning or losing that was who I was becoming, a winner or a loser.
Okay.
On every fight. So to win, I mean, to lose against what had become my arch nemesis was the worst possible case on the most widely televised female event ever in history. And I lost, and I wanted so badly to win. But in hindsight now, I can be fine with that. Like, winning or losing it doesn't carry the same weight. I like to win.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, of course, like, it's important to me. I'll be sad. But like, I'm still me with a loss.
Mm-hmm.
So my foundation doesn't change.
Not at all.
No. So it doesn't rattle my core like it used to.
But you also had a lot of time to mature and process that phase. And now I'm sure you look at the UFC and you see these women's names on the fight cards and you go, I spearheaded that. My fight, Ronda and I's fight, opened that door for all of these women. So maybe it was you two slugging it out. And obviously there has to be a loser in it. Unfortunately, that was the side that the coin landed on for you. But look at the total win as a whole of pioneering, opening the door into the UFC for women.
Yeah, this was bigger.
You want to talk about a win.
Yeah, this was so much bigger than me.
For sure.
In that moment, I was selfishly looking at it, sulking and being sad, and I wanted that win. But had I won, I don't think it would have had the impact on the sport that it did with the way that it played out. And so looking at the big picture and really zooming out and taking my own selfish desires in that moment out of it, this was the way it was supposed to be. And it was such a humbling experience. I learned so much from that. I had to rebuild myself from just being at the most broken point as an athlete, athletically, not in my personal life yet. I wasn't good in my personal life, but I still had the ability to deal with it at the time. I hadn't fully broken. So, but I was broken as an athlete. I was broken as the way I had tied myself into my worth based on wins and losses. So I was at a low point, but I was still managing. And so I think it all worked out perfectly, just the way it was supposed to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard a lot of times to process it in the moment or even afterward for a while. It might take years, but just hearing this and watching your journey through this, it was all part of God's plan for
definitely
everything that happened. And then that fight, and then to get the call, you get offered the money to come into the UFC, and you're just like, holy shit, it's all coming together. But I'm sure this didn't come till probably way after the UFC, in that process and healing, because obviously you were in a pretty dark time in your life through this whole process, which nobody even probably knows about that side of your life. But you're trying to build this image, this name, spearheading the women into the UFC.
Well, at that time, I didn't even think about that. I actually still don't think about that until people bring it up to me. I forget about that part, like the spearheading. Like it literally just dawned on me when you were talking about it. I was like, no, that's kind of true. But I just don't think about it very often in the sense of like that I had such a big part to do with it. I don't think
a lot of times people that pioneer things really even think about it, especially when you're not going for that, right? That wasn't your goal. Like, I'm going to fight my ass off.
I would love to say like, oh, I did it, for the good of women's MMA, but that's just not the truth. Like I was doing it selfishly, and the byproduct was that it helped women's MMA, and I'm so grateful for that.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that I was able to do that, but I could never have known at that time that this would have been such a impactful moment in the sport of women's MMA. So now you have to just look at it with gratitude, because at the time I had no awareness.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a great way. But but from an outsider, I mean, looking in, what an accomplishment. But it was just like anybody else. When you're the first, you're not, a lot of times you're not like, man, we're laying the groundwork. It usually comes way afterward. Once it's accomplished, once everything's built, you could take that step back and then realize like, holy shit, like this is all happening because of the men or women that walked the path before them. And I mean, it's pretty cool. It's got to, I know you say you don't think about it, but I mean, it's something that you definitely, I feel at some point in your life, are going to sit back and reflect and sit with your husband one day and be like, holy shit. I'm sure you've done a lot of, but
maybe, I definitely, I know it, but I guess I just don't think about it that often. I don't acknowledge it that much, but there are great people along the way that will remind me, and I'm grateful for that. I don't have to sit and think how great I am all day, because truth is there's next things to be accomplished, and that's part of my past, and I'm grateful, but people will bring it up, like you brought it up. Or I remember when Macy Barber, when I first met her, she's a fighter in the UFC, and she walked in the PI and she walked straight over to me and she just shook my hand. She was like, "It is so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for what you've done for women's." And I was like, "Oh, you're welcome." You're welcome. It was just but she was so sweet and genuine. So there are those little people, there's people along the way, or conversations that make me reflect and say, wow, how fortunate am I to be a part of something that was so instrumental that I didn't know that I was going to get to be.
Look, your kids are going to, be teenagers one day, and you're going to be watching a fight or something, and they're going to look at their mom and realize my mom was the OG to this. That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't
That'll
see
be
it
a
yet,
moment.
but you're going to be able to see, and your grandkids are going to be like, my grandma was the first woman in the UFC fighting. That's how I'm looking at it. I know you don't see it now, but that moment's going to come when those kids will be like, that's my grandma, that's
might
my
be
mom.
The moment that it gets me.
Yeah.
That'll be the
it's going to hit you. That's
kids,
why you're very humble, and you've this is something that wasn't your goal, but yeah, the fact that there's how many people in their life have an era that happened in that chapter of any part of their life that can say that I was part of the beginning of that. Not very many. Especially this day and age, what new happens? And the fact that you're spearheading with Ronda Rousey, Cyborg, the Holly, you might as well put the Chuck Liddells, the Ken Shamrocks. Like when you think of the early dudes, Randy Couture, the Brock Lesnar's. Not, I guess Brock came in left there, but I was a huge Frank Mir fan. So fuck Brock Lesnar. But how is Frank Mir? Can I ask how he is in real?
He's a little. His knee is bothering him, so he's been walking around on a cane. Like last time I saw him, I was like, oh no, poor Frank. But
what just died on us? That just died. That was weird. That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, it was like a light went off.
Are we unplugged here? Oh, we are unplugged. That helps.
Oh, so was it on battery and it just kicked off? I like your setup here, by the way. I haven't said anything about that yet, but that's cool. Yeah. Did you work on it a lot?
This was more my mom and my dad's design, was to keep it kind of cozy, kind of warm.
Yeah.
I just do it over here.
Okay. I like
it.
Well,
thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
That wasn't supposed to happen, but yeah, it was on battery. Frank Mir is my absolute man crush for years. And I don't watch any sports.
Do you know his daughter? You know he has a daughter who's like a savage. Her name's Bella Mir.
No. What a badass name.
A savage. Keep an eye out.
Interesting. Is
she on this one of The Ultimate Fighter? Oh, I don't know.
That would be cool. What if he was a coach? That would be bad.
Yeah, but she's real good. I worry a little bit about her being so young and like a lot of injuries. Like she's really pushing herself hard. Like as an older athlete, I kind of am like, oh, you're so young. Like I know you're ambitious, but like take care of your body, like please, because like
it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's like it's rough, but it's hard to say. It's hard to you can't just infuse it into them. And she's so driven. She's really good. So, but I think you'll be hearing more of her. Bella Mir, cool. She's awesome.
That if there's one old school dude that I could sit down and have a conversation with, that would be it for me.
Yeah,
I was such a big dude when I was fighting in the military, getting into that whole world, became an martial arts instructor. And so my average walk around was like 260, 270, and everyone's like, you gotta fight. And I'm just like, these are the gorillas that I gotta step in the ring with. I'm like, I'm good. Just having my time here. But Frank Mir was one of the dudes that I was obsessed with him. That was my go-to.
Have you ever met him?
No. That's why he's on my...
Yeah, we'll come to Vegas sometime and we'll work it out.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I still have his wife's number.
Yeah, I would
probably his number too.
I would take him up. I would love to have a conversation with him and to hear his journey through life. Okay, so back to you. Yeah, like I was saying, you're going to see it one day, and your kids are going to know who you were as far as.
My kids always bring it home, so that makes sense to me. I think that they always they bring so much.
Circle.
Yeah, they bring everything full circle. And honestly, after I retired, I have been in a 9-year toxic relationship.
You want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It's interesting as a girl dad because I'm trying to raise these strong, independent, know their morals, know their values, strong. They can handle themselves in these situations, which obviously hearing your story, there was some lack of fathership and mentorship from the male role side, mentorship side of that. And we look at you as this picture of strong, independent, baddest chick on the planet, walking into the ring, facing some of the absolute murderers as far as other women. But this whole entire time, you're trapped in a relationship that is just slowly killing you. Mm-hmm. And it pretty much, if I might be mistaken, was a huge reason why you retired and kind of stepped away from the sport. to handle your personal life. Can we dig into this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how does a woman of your stature, everything you've accomplished, the ups and downs of failing and fighting and crawling yourself out of trenches, how do you end up in a relationship like this?
Well, it started when I was 19.
Okay.
So I wasn't the woman that I am today.
Absolutely.
There was still a lot of unpacking that I needed to do, still a lot of trauma that I needed to work through. And granted, I had a good upbringing with parents who loved me, who weren't perfect, but I didn't have like a 10 out of 10 trauma life.
Yeah.
And so I had my traumas like we all do.
For sure.
But I think where I really was looking to repair was I was trying to find that male stability in my life. So I wasn't a promiscuous girl. It wasn't like daddy issues. It was like, I just want to go out and like sleep with a bunch of guys. But I wanted to be in a relationship. And but I feared marriage, but I wanted to find someone who wouldn't leave me. Yeah. Wouldn't leave me, because I felt abandoned by my biological father. And then I had a man that I was very, very close with that my mom dated from like 0 to 2. So before she met my dad who raised me. And him and I were like this. Like we were inseparable. I loved him with every fiber of my being. But he wasn't a very motivated man. He was a stay-at-home dad. So loving and sweet. But I understand why my mom working overtime to provide and just having, a guy who was like great with her kid, but like laying around on couch, smoking weed all day, wasn't going to cut it. Like she needed a provider. She needed a man to show up, and he was not going to be that. But for me, I loved him. He was my everything.
And he just left or what?
Well, yeah, they split. He was still in my life, but he never was a man with really a backbone.
Okay.
And so when he got into his next relationship, everything changed, right? They got married and they moved away, and he's
so
basically...
that's tough for you. So you pretty much lost your first male role model in your life, and then your second, first your biological father, then this guy.
Yeah, which I wasn't really totally aware of because I didn't have the relationship with my biological father. But I think by the time I was like a teenager, I did understand. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I was like, so my biological father is like barely a part of my life, and he wasn't even around till he wrote me a Christmas card when I was 5 years old. And my mom decided to be honest with me about it, despite, again, everyone's kind of like, he hasn't been there. He doesn't deserve that. Shield her from it. Don't talk to her about it. Don't tell her about it. And she's like, I'm not like, I'm going to tell her. And like my mom's, they've always been that way, like always very transparent, always giving me an opportunity to process, giving me an opportunity to have a voice. And so I'm, again, so grateful for that. But I remember opening the Christmas card, and I wasn't reading at the time, so my mom read it to me, but I remember the photo. And it was like, I'm your dad and this and that. But the photo was black and white photo. And it was of my dad with like the 80s hair. So like big old, he was a rock star. He was wearing tight leather pants with like a leather open jacket with the electric guitar. And he's just like jamming, it's a picture of him jamming on the car. That was him. And I was like, that's my dad?
You're like, yes.
Wow. I mean, it was just such a, I still remember that picture so vividly. And I was like, that's my dad? I was like, wow. But he toured all through the 80s and early 90s, and he opened for some major bands. I don't remember who, but he is incredibly talented. Anyways, but that picture, I mean, that's just not a normal picture. You expect if your dad was going to send you a picture, it's just a picture, sitting, smiling, something, but no, it was him as a rock star. And I was like, my dad's a rock star. Yes. And then the male that I first bonded with, left. And then I had my dad who raised me again, who, who's a friend, a brother at first.
Yep.
And then an extreme disciplinarian. And then we had years where we just were not speaking. Probably wasn't until I was about 16 we started to talk.
You went through a lot of abandonment stages that you started processing as a teenager. So that's where now you're seeking somebody that's going to stay in your life and never leave. Do you think a lot of that was rooted from going through all these male role models in your life?
Absolutely.
The mind is such a fascinating.
And then the downside of being so tough, like knowing that you can do hard things and get through hard things, was that I didn't have the perspective that I have now, which is just because I can doesn't mean I should. And it doesn't mean I have to. And this is where I think a lot of women get short-sighted when they get in a relationship that's not good for them, but they endure because they can, not because they should. And they fear the leaving, or someone leaving them. That was my circumstance, at least. So I found my ex, and I just thought he was so great. He was an athlete, and he was just Mr. Cool, and he was not very nice to me at first. But I saw my mom also endure, with my dad, like in a relationship that I was like, I never want that. I was like, I don't want to get married. Because I thought that's what marriage was. So I was like, okay, I never want to get married, and I don't want to have kids because kids keep you stuck. So you can't, if like things got bad. But then I deep down like wanted someone to love me and not leave me. So it was this weird combination of like the things that I thought I did and didn't want. And so I ended up staying with him for about 9 years.
When in your relationship did you see or feel a shift to where you started to feel trapped?
Very early on.
Really?
Yeah. I would say within the first year, because there would be times when we would get in arguments and he would like physically stop me from leaving the room. Because I'm somebody who doesn't like to have explosive, volatile like fights and conversations. If I know that I'm about to say something that I don't mean or do something, like I would rather remove myself from the situation, calm myself down, get collected, and then I'll come back and talk about it. So when things would get to a point of escalation, it was like triggering for me because it was like what my mom and dad would do.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't like this. This is like I don't like it. So I would try to leave, but he didn't ever want me to leave. Like he was always like closet.
Got it.
So he would stop me by whatever means necessary, like holding me down.
Oh, he was getting physical?
Yeah, physical, not hitting me. He wasn't like a, I'm going to beat you down kind of man, but he was like, well, I don't want you to leave, so therefore I will not let you. So yeah, he would physically hold me down, block the door, do whatever he needed to, wrap me up in a blanket, like hold me, just like,
oh shit.
Yeah. So,
and then what's his tactic? Is he just start crying and apologize? How's he getting you to stay?
Usually he would just keep talking and talking and talking until you agree. So we like have this strategy of like, I'm not going to physically let you go until I've mentally got you captivated.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of give to alleviate the situation. But it's like once you say it out loud, somehow it becomes kind of like
you start to believe it.
Yeah,
100%.
You start to believe it.
100%.
So and
manipulation, then, right? They get you to agree. Now you're just, even though you're agreeing, okay, just let me go. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm. You can't leave because if you tried to leave again at that point, you're going to go back in the same
and it starts all over
physical
again.
situation. So then you just keep listening to them. And at first you're like, yeah. And then eventually it becomes like the emotional, like they're sad, they're broken. And then your empathetic side comes out. You start to feel sorry for them. And then the cycle is the cycle. And that's just how it basically continued every single time. And every time that it would get to a point of escalation, I would want to leave and he would physically stop me. And then it would be just this mental, process of like control.
And meanwhile, you're trying to ride cloud 9 on your fighting career.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this relationship that is just tearing you apart all at this almost side by side. You're trying to explore this life that you're unfolding here in the UFC or in the MMA world, and this guy has just got his hooks in you.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back now, why did you stay for 9 years?
That's it's a really good question, if I'm going to be honest. And a lot of people ask me that, and I think that I remember talking to my great uncle about this. He was one of the few men in my life that I could reach out to and didn't know anybody, doesn't have social media. He was my grandmother's youngest brother. And he said, you know, Miesha, you are so afraid of hurting him that you choose to hurt yourself instead.
Hmm.
And I had to really sit on that one. And I said, it just never left me. I said, he's absolutely right. Because I could endure, I would. Because I felt that I could do it. I had the strength to do it. And I felt that he didn't.
So you were picking up his slack for him.
Correct. Yeah. And I cared. I mean, I'm a deep, loving person. I wanted to be able to help him and to fix him and to heal him. And I know that he has a lot of his own trauma too, you know, so I can't even look back at it and be angry. He was a broken person too. I mean, geez, like, yeah, we were just so broken. It's just such a toxic combination. And I still think that he hasn't changed. And he's still very toxic. I don't think he has the ability to. I truly think that he's a narcissist. Like, I know that word is thrown around. I know there's a lot of people labeled that. But if he's not diagnosed, I honestly think he is. And he's, if not, at the very least, is extremely manipulative. I mean,
which is
terrifying.
So. I mean,
very manipulative.
That's where I'm not learning it as a girl dad, you know, and now that she's in the dating world, but it's one of those things that terrifies me. And I know mom, because for men and women, when you have somebody that it is very good at manipulating, that's how they turn you against your family.
That's how happened too.
He really, he drove a wedge in between you and your family.
Yeah. My mom and him.
I was going to say, because your mom, I'm going to see if I can paint this picture. He knows how tight you are with your mom, doesn't like the fact you confide in your mom. So he starts drawing a wedge. Your mom knows who he is as a person. So she probably voices her opinion. And so whenever a narcissist knows somebody's onto them, they'll do whatever they can do to remove that person out of their life.
Yep.
It's almost textbook.
It's almost textbook. And
you don't see it though.
No.
I mean, down the road you will, but slowly over time he's chipping away at you. So now you're less conversation with your mom. Don't talk very often, and now he's your only world, which happens to a lot of women, I feel.
Correct. And it's a natural process in the sense that kids are supposed to leave the nest and find their forever person. Yeah. Right? 100%. So it's progressionally appropriate that at 19, 20, 21, 22, that I am, starting to try to spread my wings in the sense that, like, Mom, I'm not staying in your nest forever. I'm trying to build my own nest. And, but she was like, they're not with this one. Like, he's not the one. And some
parents just know.
Yeah. Some parents just butted heads majorly. And, so there's some years there where I did not speak to my mom.
Oh,
yeah, and not
years?
Much. And there was, I didn't really speak to my dad or my siblings or really any of my family because it was too hard. He would make it so difficult, and he would always be like in my ear on one side, and like, I just, I'm because this is a conversation we're having, and we're talking about the hard stuff. But the problem when you're in a relationship like this is that it's not always bad and it's not always hard. There are times that they make it so great or seem so hopeful, and especially after the hard, like when it gets really hard, and that's what you hang on to. You hang on to those moments or the promises, hopes, or the changes, or like, that they're going to make these changes, and then they do for a little bit, and then it slips back in, but then they say that like so much of it's your fault, or what he used to tell me all the time is like, nobody will love you, like basically like nobody will love you the way that I love you, like nobody can love you as much as I love you. And it would always be that messaging. And so I think it was kind of like when building off of the fear and anxiety of losing the male in your life. And was it me? Like, was it me? You start to question. And as a young woman, I was so much more vulnerable to this because I did not have the confidence that I have now. I mean, now I'm not afraid to disagree with you. I'm not afraid to disagree with anybody. I'm not afraid to be exactly who I am and very strong in my stance. And I think that I owe that to my children. So like they have truly changed my life in such a major way that I'm like, I I not only want to show them example, I want to be the example.
Have to.
And fortunately, Johnny, who I'm with now, has given me just being by who he is. Like, he's just naturally who he is. Like, the safety and the ability to like fall into myself and really become who I am. He is completely like hands off. Like, he lets me be who I am. And that's why I fell in love with him. That's one of the main reasons, because coming out of this long relationship of somebody who was just constantly like browbeating and like putting me down and wanting me to stay here. So like I would never leave, you know, and
they don't want to see you grow.
Yeah, not at all. Like, be a servant and like constantly belittling me. I remember through my fight career, always just like, you wouldn't be anything without me. Like, you would never have amounted to this. I gave you your whole career. Meanwhile, like, he was a talented athlete in his own right, fought in the UFC as well. But he had such mental performance issues and anxiety issues that, it was like crippling for him, where like we all have some degree of that, but it wasn't crippling for me. Like, I moved through it and I would like get through, like if I was scared, I would overcome it.
Some people can't.
But him, like, you know, he was like puking over the trash cans and like, and you know, not to say like he still couldn't perform. He did, he was talented, but it was easier for him to justify that it was easier for me to do it and make the money, and like he could just like spend it and not have to do the heavy lift, but like still take the credit for me and my career and make sure that I knew that like I was here.
So he's too scared to do it on his own. So he's living vicariously through you, but trying to control you in your career because he can't do it on his own. I mean,
yeah. I mean, he did fight, so I don't say he can't do it on his own, but slowly he started fighting less
and then more on you,
pouring more on me. But then under the guise that like, well, you know, it's easier. You know, it's like my road to try to get to the title is like way harder than your road, which that's a fact. Actually, there's more men. It is harder, but his justification of but. Yeah, exactly. It was like we all have our own, you know.
Cry me a fucking river, bro. Like, that's the whole point of the challenge and making it to the top.
Correct. Which he had the talent.
Down.
He had the talent to do that. He actually has a win over Aljamain Sterling. She's very talented. But he just found it easier to not have to do the hardest thing. And the hardest thing is like going through training camp, doing the dieting, doing the fighting. He was like, well, you're going to make more money and it's easier for you. And it's like women's fighting. So yeah, I'll just coach you and take all the credit and make sure, you know, that you never in your head can get big enough to be confident and see like how great you really are.
In reality, get big enough to realize how great you really are. So you don't need him.
Correct. Because I tried to start leaving the relationship, like trying to break up about 4.5 years into the relationship.
Okay. So when was your aha moment that he was manipulating you? Was there a come to Jesus moment?
I think I knew deep down, but I wasn't willing to go there. And part of it was pride too, because I had separated from my family so much that I didn't want to just give up on it so that they could be right. So part of it was that was like not wanting to, you know, have to swallow
it.
Yeah, swallow. Yeah, exactly. Swallow the pride because they were constantly telling me that I shouldn't be with him. So I wanted to prove them wrong. I was stubborn. And so he actually went on The Ultimate Fighter and he was gone for like out of my life. But we were still together, but he was on The Ultimate Fighter for 6 or 8 weeks. And I was
so you got a little breather.
That was a come to Jesus moment for me. I 1000% was like broken up with him in my mind in that moment. Cause I was like, this is what I needed. I needed to know what it's like to function without him. And, but I didn't want, I wanted him to do well on The Ultimate Fighter because I wanted him to be set up to like, I still like, I didn't wish bad on him. So I was hoping like to keep the peace and like, hopefully he did as well as he could. So like when he comes home and like, we are broken up, like we're separated, that he has something going for him. Right. That's not how it worked out. No. Like when he came home, it was a disaster. Like the whole thing was a disaster. He didn't make it to the very yeah. I mean, he won 1 or 2, and then he lost 1. And I think he was out of the tournament. Still fighting on the Ultimate Fighter card, but not as like the
contenders.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he didn't want me to leave, obviously. So it was a nightmare.
How's he getting you to stay? I mean, are you trying to leave? Have you tried to break up with this guy and move on? What's his tactic besides holding you?
If he couldn't physically hold me, because at the points, I mean, you can't physically hold someone all the time. And I was wisening up to this, Okay. So like I started to feel less of the draw to stay after the fact that I had said all the things that he wanted me to say.
Mm-hmm.
I was like waking up to it. I was like, I'm no longer like under the spell. I don't want to
see in the game.
Yeah. I was like, I would say all the things, and then like he would like let me go out of the house, or like, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to stay. I don't want to be in this relationship. And I knew it. But then what he would do is he would threaten to kill himself.
He was one of those.
Yeah.
Bro, I have learned one thing in my life. The dudes that are like, I'm going to kill myself if you leave me, are the biggest bitches you've ever met in your life. They're the most insecure, little
controlling.
Yeah, and they don't, he was one of those.
Yeah. So that was
so how does that affect you now? Because now does that trap you as a woman when the dude says, I'm going to kill myself?
That. And mind you, in college, I had lost a boyfriend that I was only with for like 6 months. So not a long relationship, but he killed himself while we were together.
Oh.
And so that was like terrifying. Now
did he know this?
Yes.
So he used that against you.
Correct. He knew.
This dude's what a scumbag. Okay, so he's capitalizing off of trauma in your life.
Yeah.
So now he's pulling
ultimate manipulation.
Can I ask
the tactics?
Can I ask you kind of a deep question?
Yeah.
How bad did that affect you when your boyfriend took his life?
It was horrific because, I mean, granted, it was, we weren't in that deep of it was 6 months. We were in college, but like, oh yeah. I mean, for anybody, I mean, he was so young, and I was I was devastated because you have all the questions, like, what could I have done differently? Like, why, but his name was Apollo, and, the poor boy, like he was so abused as a child. Like we barely started to unpack it, but those demons were real heavy. That didn't have anything anything to do with me. Granted, our relationship wasn't perfect, and it would not have worked out long term. He was too damaged, but that was so sad. It was so heartbreaking.
And so this guy capitalizes on, because that's major trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're with this guy.
I quit going to college. I quit. I was puking. I was physically sick. I was so devastated. He was like gone. He hung himself.
Did you see or find this, or was this?
I did not see it. It was like, it was his cousin, I think, that found him. Yeah. So he was a fighter as well, and he put like a rope or belt around his neck, and so his feet were actually on the floor, which is what's wild. But he knew how, because through fighting, to cut off the carotids. So you basically just put it on tight enough, you lose consciousness, and then you dangle, and that was how he took his life. And
so you're living with that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a male figure in your life to help you process this.
Mm-hmm.
You meet this guy, and then he uses that against you as a tool.
Correct.
To keep you trapped.
Yeah. And I didn't want him. I still don't. I don't wish anything bad for him. I pray that he can find himself, that he can figure it out, that he can be a better man, that he can, he has a daughter now. And I just pray. I pray for him. I pray for him all the time, that I hope that he can find what it is that he doesn't have, or that he's missing.
So would get to the verge of leaving.
Yeah.
But then you can't leave to save your life because he's threatening to take his life. So you feel leaving the situation is going to cost somebody their life.
Correct.
Which has just held you there for, you said you were over about year 4 and you did 9 years. So you
a long time.
grinded out 5 more years with this guy?
Because I kept convincing myself, okay, if he's going to kill himself now, like I can do a better job of easing our separation, like easing it off.
Okay.
But then I would just get sucked back in.
Things like, get good for a little bit. You kind of forget.
Exactly. Like after that big low, right? Things improve. It's hopeful. And then just the amount of like, the lift and the fear of everything that comes with trying to leave. Every time you try to do it and you fail, it's just like that much harder to try to do it again. Yeah. And I was the kind of person, and I felt like it was only right to try to, if you were going to break up with someone you had been with and that you care about and that you love in a way, to do it in person. And when I finally left, I had realized like I can't do this in person because there's a control factor that's out of my control, physically and mentally and emotionally. So when I finally did break up with him, I was away from him. It was over a text message, and then I turned my phone off, and I said, I wasn't as close to God then, but a prayer that
for sure
that he wouldn't take his own life, but I had to accept that.
Okay.
If he did, like, I had to try to come to terms with, like, was it on my hands or wasn't it?
That's a huge statement that the fact that you're at that stage in your life where you have to make the call. And I don't mean this in like a non-emotional, empathetic way, but you're just like, okay, it's going to cost me my life or his is what it's coming down to. And you had to make that jump and that's got to be terrifying. I don't even know how you process that, okay, I'm going to send this. As soon as you hit send, might cost somebody their life. Like that's a major weight to bear for anybody, that this person that you've been with for 9 years is threatening to kill themselves.
It's terrifying.
And now you're going to push send because obviously you're not going to do it in person. I'm one of those, like every breakup should be in person, but there are certain ones that.
Me too.
This is that situation where you're like,
like, and it was the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Right. So I had tried that so many times. I remember I was with one of my best friends at her fight, and she had won. And this is when the breakup happened. And he kept calling me. And she was trying to do her post media stuff. And we were just like so happy. I was so happy for her. And he kept blowing up my phone. And he was like talking to me about this problem. But the thing is that every solution that I would come up with, he had already thought of and been like, I've already thought of that, and this is why this wouldn't work, blah, blah, blah. So like he just wanted to argue with me. There was nothing that I could say. There wasn't something he was actually looking for. It was more to get me to say a thing so he could like yell at me about why that wouldn't work. And I'm like, well, if there's, I was like, I really got to go. Like my friend just won her fight. I was like, I'm trying to like, we're happy. And I'm just on the phone with you fighting, and you're just fighting with me. Like there's nothing I can say. I can't win. Like I'm trying. I've tried to give you all the things. And I don't know what else you want. What do you want me to say? I was like, I don't have, like, I can't just pull a magic rabbit out of my hat. Like, I don't know. Like, I've given you everything I've tried to give, but like, can you please be considerate of this moment? Because this was not like a pressing thing, like needed to be solved right now. Like, hey, dog's dying. Do we take him to the vet or not? It was nothing like that. It was something that could have been dealt with the next day. But no, he wanted my attention in that moment.
Control.
He wanted control, and he was mad that I, was there and like he wasn't invited on this. Like I didn't want him to come because they knew he would ruin it. And here I was on the phone with him, and he was ruining it. And I just put my phone away for the night. And like the next day I was like just blown up all these messages. And I was like, I was in Kansas City, and I was like, him and I were living in Las Vegas. I was like, I'm not going home. I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't know. I'm not taking the flight. And so I ended up road tripping to with a friend to like Colorado, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. Like I had no idea, but I was like, I can't go back. I can't go back.
And you're a champion at this point, correct? Trying to put your timeline together.
Strike Force. I had been a Strike Force champ. Let me think about that for a second. I had been Strikeforce champ. I had been, yeah. Yes. Now I'm thinking back. I'm like going through all my timeline. Yes, I had been the UFC champ and I had lost it. And then, so I lost to Amanda. So this was after fighting Amanda Nunes.
Which is a terrifying person.
Mm-hmm. And I fought her in July. So this must have happened shortly, like right around then, like after that.
What was
with her.
In this relationship, what was the darkest points? Because you talked about suicide at some point. Did he bring you to that point? Was he just a culminate, like it piled everything on as far as getting you to that dark spot?
He definitely had a big part of it because he'd isolated me from all the comforts, but yet he wasn't a comfort.
Absolutely
he wasn't going to validate anything that I was going through feeling. And so when I won my world title against Holly Holm, I was actually already on my downward spiral.
With him?
Mm-hmm.
Was the whole downward spiral all based around him, or were there other things going on in your life?
Well, I think I was missing a lot in my life.
For sure.
So it wasn't maybe that there was active, there was unresolved, a lot of unresolved things, like a lot of things that I had just left packed away somewhere that had never unpacked it. And so I just hadn't moved through anything. I had just been very stagnant. I focused only on fighting, and I dealt with the relationship the best that I could. And I honestly had conditioned myself to believe that I was going to be better and successful in spite of. So like the more challenging that life was outside and the camp, and like the harder it was, like the better I was going to do in my fights, because that's how I thought I was. I was like under that mental belief that I needed the adversity because that's what fueled me.
Okay.
So I had come accustomed, but only because I had come accustomed to it. So it was always part of the process. So I had to try to spin it to make it the positive. Like, look, you still do well. Like, that's great. Like, you're going to do great, because this has been like a shit show.
For sure.
So you're going to be amazing. And eventually, like, it worked until it didn't work. And I remember when I was cutting weight for the fight with Amanda. So I was the champ already. And I was cutting weight with my head coach, and he was like, it was International Fight Week. So there was fights on Friday and on Saturday. And so he was like, do you care if I go to the fights? And I was like, honestly, I was like, yeah, please go. Because he was like such a pain in the ass. Like when you're cutting weight,
miserable.
Like you're miserable. You're going to be more grumpy. You might say something, that you wouldn't normally say. You just you have zero patience. Like everyone knows cutting weight culture, including him. But he would have given me zero, like no leniency, no slack,
okay.
Or wouldn't be there, or would just be a dick, like just be making it harder. There were so many times early in my career, like I cut weight by myself in a bathtub, Well, he was like watching TV in the other room. Like I was like, can we like go to the sauna? And he's like, do you have to? Like, can't you just like cut it in the bathroom? It was just like very self-centered. And so I was having a hard weight cut. I was cutting weight for my title fight, so I'd make 135 instead of 136, right? So you have to be right on the dot for championship. So I'm the champ right now. I just beat Holly Holm, and I'm fighting Amanda, and I'm cutting weight hard. And he comes in from the fights smelling like beer. He was obviously intoxicated. And he brought like these basketball players and like other people like there, like, and that was just like not appropriate. Like, but he was like trying to like network, or I don't know what he was trying to do, but like to see me, to meet me, to whatever. And it was a very inappropriate moment because I'm like in, sauna suit, just like sweating, dying. Like I'm not personable in that moment. Not a good moment. And so like Coach Fallis was like, bro, like, no, like go, and luckily he was there for me. He was, he was advocating for me, but it was just like a lot of moments like that where it was just about Brian, and he didn't care, like he just assumed like I would power through and win the next day. And I didn't, well, and then when I won the title, that was honestly one of the hardest moments for me because it was so great. And then I realized it fixed nothing because I truly had bought into the fact that like, oh, that must be why I'm not happy, because I haven't accomplished the ultimate goal. So I kept putting so much emphasis on like, if I just become that world champion, then I'll be happy.
And you ended up becoming a world champion and it wasn't there for you.
No. So
now you're processing that.
yeah, and I'm very confused.
For sure.
Which
That's
is
your
like
whole
now
life.
you see behind the curtain and you realize the answer's not there. So then you're like, well, where is it? Because if it's not in that, that's what I put all my eggs in the basket. Now everything's shattered and a mess and I don't know what to do with the pieces. Because the truth is, I've come to find that it doesn't fix anything. So that was honestly the moment that I would say that I really broke, was right after winning the title.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So winning the ultimate goal for you was at the same time rock bottom for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because I thought it was going to fix everything.
And now you're you're in your room, you got this title, you got the belt.
And I have all the same problems.
And nothing changed.
Nothing changed. Nothing changed.
Was that a huge aha moment for you, or did it take you a while to process that?
No, it was a huge aha moment because after the high of riding the win and, you know, that first week or two where there's all the interviews and everyone's so excited for you and like, they're there in Vegas and then, you know, everyone goes home and you're kind of like sitting there with yourself and you're like, my life is still not good. Like, this is not good. I'm not good. I'm not okay. And I really had to check in with myself in that moment and be like, then what is it? And I knew the relationship was real bad. I knew it was bad. I knew things had really progressed in such a horrible direction, but I didn't have it figured out. Like, I didn't know how to get through it except to fight again. So I signed a fight after winning. I tried to fight again pretty quickly. Despite like my managers, you know, he's like, no, just don't worry about defending it. Just like enjoy it. Like ride the wave of like being the champ. But when I was so broken and so depressed and there's so many things that I was not addressing. I refused to address that. I was like, well, the only way that I've ever felt better before is to get another win.
So that's your drug.
This was my drug. I needed a bump, essentially.
You needed a fight.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse. I could have picked worse drug for sure.
It could, but at the same time, a drug's a drug.
A drug is a drug. Yeah, it was my dopamine. It was my cure. But the problem was in the next fight when I fought Amanda, and I was so far down, and I thought briefly that maybe if I defended my belt, because you're not really truly a champ until you defend your belt. Right? So they say. I was like, well, maybe that's what it is.
So they say.
Yeah. So they say. And I was like, well, maybe if I defend my belt, then maybe it'll be better. But I already kind of knew, but I was like, I didn't know what else. I had nothing else to put in place of that, this ideology that I'd created. And so I was like, okay, I'll defend my belt and that'll be great. And then I lost. And then I still was like, oh shit, well, maybe I just need to fight again. But I was just going downhill rapidly. So after
How many people are seeing this? Is there anybody even aware that you're spiraling now? You win the belt, the high wears off.
Mm-mm.
Now you start chasing it, and now the spiral. Is this where the spiral really starts to set in for you? And you have anybody in your corner at this point?
Nobody.
Is this rock bottom for you?
Yeah. This is where I was spiraling, and so
You're still in the relationship?
I broke up with him after that fight with Amanda.
Okay.
So right after that,
okay,
I broke up with him.
So now you're out of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You lost your title belt. You have nobody in your life that's even knows what's going on and what you're facing.
Mm-hmm. The only person that knew a little bit because he was inside was Robert Fallis, who was our coach, my coach at the time, who has since passed away to suicide. So it's just, Robert was dealing with his own demons, but he always showed up for me, and there was that mentor, he was that father figure. And he protected me a lot during the times when Brian was like just being chaos and an asshole, and training and things. He was someone that I could turn to and he would buffer, he would help the relationship to, function a little bit better. And Brian trusted him too, for whatever reason, like he was Brian's coach. And so, yeah, so that was the one person that was in that kind of knew, maybe not all of it, but he was aware and he saw a lot of it firsthand. So
how were you coping? I mean, did you turn to anything, or was it just depression?
Yeah.
What's setting in during the spiral?
It was just depression. I mean, I was a casual drinker, but I wasn't using alcohol as like a crutch. So no, I was just, I was spiraling. I didn't really have anything to turn to. I wasn't even close to God in that time in my life. So I didn't really feel like I had the right to like reach out to God at that point because I hadn't been a good follower of Christ. I mean, I believed that God was there. Yeah, I mean, I knew he was there, but I felt guilty. I felt really guilty.
Absolutely.
So I didn't feel like it was right of me. I was like, no, I have to figure this out.
You're figuring it out on your own. Trying to, at least.
Trying to, and I was failing. So I did the only thing that I could think of, which was to take another fight. So
take your mind off things.
Yeah,
okay.
I guess.
And that fight was with
try to get a win. Try to get some value back because I had lost 2 fights in a row for the yeah, no, not for the first time, but yeah, I lost 2. It sucks to lose 2 fights in a row, but I had lost my title, and then I lost. I took the fight with Raquel Pennington, and it was such a cool opportunity. And it just sucks that I was where I was in my life because it was at Madison Square Garden for the first time ever that UFC was legalized in New York, and it was just an amazing event. And I remember none of it. Yeah,
I was just gonna ask, what was that like?
I think what my maladaptive coping skill as a child, what I learned to do is disassociate.
Data dump it.
Yeah, just kind of like you just don't be there. It's almost like an out of body experience. You're here, but you're not. You are anywhere else.
Holy shit! So you're fighting in the Madison Square Gardens, and you just are completely rock bottom. You don't even remember.
I remember like a brief moment in the fight when I was like, I don't want to be doing this.
You were done.
Yeah, I just knew. I was like,
Have you ever watched that fight? Rewatched it?
I try to watch round 1. I've watched round 1.
Are you a different person then? Can you tell in yourself by watching it how broken you were?
I was sick. Yeah, I was sick. I remember that I thought watching it that I looked better than I felt. I was like looking up from the outsider's eye. You probably would just think like Miesha looks a little like not her best tonight, but like she's fighting, like I look normal. Like I was on autopilot. But the way that I felt inside, you could not see it. You couldn't see it in that fight.
You're really good at hiding it.
I must have been. Yeah, I guess I was. I mean, nobody knew.
Do you think it was years of dealing with a toxic relationship? You just had to learn how to just put a smile on and be a face to these fans, these young girls.
Correct.
And now you have this pressure from the UFC. You got a toxic relationship you're just getting out of. You just lost
all behind closed doors. Because as soon as the lights and cameras would come on, it was like, okay, you got a mask. Real good. You never want your opponent to think you're going through all that stuff. You never want that to be a weakness. I mean, the whole concept of fighting is to show up and be strong and conquer. So you never want anybody to know that there's anything that wasn't anything but perfect. So I was very accustomed to saying all the things and even trying to convince myself of the things,
Absolutely. It's okay. So after that fight,
yeah. So I retired that night.
Did you know going into it, or was that a knee-jerk reaction?
No, I thought I was going to win, and I thought I would be fine, and that it would be okay. Like if I got another win, I thought I was just feeling all these ways because I was I hadn't won. I lost my belt. Like, oh yeah, that's normal. Like you'd be depressed when you lose your belt, but no, I just had not taken a deep dive. I was still so good at pressing the beach ball into the water, but I was slowly becoming so fatigued that I just couldn't hold it anymore. And then it was, as it starts to surface, you just like, oh shit, you're not ready for it. You're not ready to unpack all the things. I had no tools. I had no ability to do that. I was just so good at stuffing everything in the closet and just locking the door and like, putting the earplugs on as like skeletons are banging on the door and just like, okay, we're good.
On to the next distraction, on to the next
the next thing, on to the next fight, on to the next challenge, on to the next adversity, on to this. Like, just keep yourself busy, just keep going. But then I just hit a wall and I just couldn't go anymore. But I was still trying to do the things that worked before, but it was like, it just wasn't working anymore. And so I told Robert because he was in the corner with me, and my ex was there, and we were not together at that time, but he still made it into my training camp somehow. It convinced me that I had never not had him there, and so
Oh God.
yeah, and that was a nightmare. I do remember, not specific moments, but I remember the feeling, because he was there, and the whole time he was just trying to get back together with me, trying to convince me of like getting back together.
I'll change.
Yeah, like
I won't do it again.
Yeah. Well, it was all the things. Like I don't remember the words. I don't remember the specifics, but I know that there was this looming pressure, and I was fucking exhausted because I had made him promise like that would not be, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't matter. And then, so I told Robert after the third round, I was like, I'm retiring. I was like, that's it. And Robert's kind of like, deep breath. He's like, okay, like he knew that I was making an emotional decision, but he didn't try to talk me out of it. But my ex at the time was like, no, like he did not want me to retire. He didn't want me to retire. He was like, no.
So do you feel you just did the opposite of what he wanted you to do, just out of spite, or what?
No, I think it was the only way that he knew he stayed hooked into me. Because he was able to still use that to stay in. Mm-hmm. And that was the last string. If I cut it, there was no reason for me to have him in my life anymore.
How much pressure do you feel he had on you retiring? How much of that decision was made by him?
I don't think I ever would have retired at that time in my life, had it not been for everything I was going through in my personal life.
See, and you went against your rule and not let your kids quit after a loss.
Yeah. Well, I learned some lessons.
Yep. Listen, kids, this is why we have this. Let me tell you this story. Yeah, because you quit on a low.
Yeah, it's true. But I quit because I didn't know how to separate him from fighting.
100%.
So like I felt like if I needed to fully remove myself from him, I had to remove myself from the sport. So, and I also hated the way that I felt. Like I was on autopilot. I was not in that fight.
Yep.
It was like that. I never want to fight like that again. And I didn't know how to remove. So I retired, and I went to the hospital because they made me get checked out, which I tried to avoid. I was like, I'm fine. I don't have to go to the hospital. I actually left. I ran away from all the people that security and everybody who was supposed to make you go to the hospital or whatever. And I was like, Dana's blowing up my phone, and I was hiding out, and I didn't want to fucking go because I knew I was fine. I was like, I'm not okay here, but physically I'm fine. I fought Amanda. You didn't make me go to the hospital. I was fucked up after I fought Amanda. I was like, so why are you going to make me go to the hospital but off this one? Nothing even happened. I didn't even really get hit in that fight. I need to go and be, by myself. But Dana was like, don't make me leave this venue and come and find you personally. Just go to the hospital. And I was like, so I went, and then I hung out. I did the after party thing with my friends, but I don't there's one picture from that night. I've got a little bit of maybe a little bit of, bruising under an eye, and I'm still got my hair somewhat in braids. And there's my friend. I remember none of my friends being there. I don't remember any of them. But she's taking a selfie in the bar with her boyfriend, and they're smiling, and we're in the background. And my ex is looking at me, and he's got his finger in my face, and he's he's just really and I'm just spacing off and with this broken kind of
numb.
Yeah, kind of a help me, a little bit of a help me. But everyone was so used to this dynamic in our relationship that I know that my friends didn't know it was as bad as it was, but they were used to Brian being himself.
If it's that bad in public, it's 10 times worse behind closed doors.
And that moment is a stark reminder of when I saw that photo. I was like, that's that was the dynamic. That was the relationship. That was the complete disregard for me as a person, how I was feeling, how broken I was. It was just that he needed to get control of me again. I needed to listen to him. I needed to be with him. No regard for anything else, but what he wanted out of me and out of that moment. And so I mean, I did put my foot down with like the retirement and announcing it, because he was like, no, like don't retire, like please no. And I was like, no, I am. And I did. And then, then after that, I didn't know what to do, honestly.
Yeah. What's life like now that you just spent your last young adulthood to present time training to be a world athlete, to perform on the world stage of MMA athlete of all things? Then it's all gone. Well, I mean, how are you? Did you hit rock bottom yet, or are you still spiraling? I mean, did this start to help? I mean, was retiring the right decision for you?
There were a few times between, like losing my title and fighting Raquel, and even that time of like right around losing, where in the dark, quiet moments, I would ask myself if my life was still worth living. And I thought about the ways that I could take myself out of this world, because I didn't know if I had any value outside of that. And I didn't know if I had any value. I felt useless. I felt like my worth and existence was pointless. And so I thought about it. I really contemplated, and I can say that I think that is the moment that God used a little pinhole of light to just send me a little message. And I think the answer for me, when I would ask myself that, should I just end it? Like, no one could stop me. I'm like by myself. Like, I could just stop. I could just end it. And I would ask myself if I should, and what is my life worth living? And I guess I always came to the conclusion that in that moment that I would try. I would continue to try. And that I did it really wasn't that I didn't want to live. I mean, ultimately in my heart, I knew that it wasn't that I wanted to live. It was that I didn't want to live like that.
And you've been so trapped in that world, that's your only option at this point.
Yeah, I just didn't know other tools. I had not done any work on myself. I had forgotten about myself since I was, 21. I had basically done zero. I had done everything to ignore, everything possible to ignore the way that I was feeling. Everything that I could to like not unpack any of it. But then it just got too heavy.
Always does.
Yeah. So it kind of came crashing down on me. But I think, but like between God and between knowing again that I can get through hard things, like being able to fall back on those are some of the hardest, deepest, most vulnerable, private moments of my life, to think that I questioned that and to think of all the blessings that I have now. It's like, it hurts my heart to think that. I had to think about other people that go through that moment and sometimes don't make it out of it.
That's why it's you don't ever end the pain, you just pass it, right?
Yeah.
And then to think at this low moment in your life that you were contemplating taking your own life, and to look who you are as a mother now, how you're helping all these children, and you have this incredible man that has stepped up and provided everything that you needed all those years. All could have just been gone in the blink of an eye, because we get so lost and we get entrapped in these such a dark place that we think that's it. And in reality, there's
so much more.
It really is.
It's just like any message, to anybody who thinks about that is just like, it's so hard in the moment, but you got to have faith. You got to know that you can get through it, and you got to know that there is more on the other side, and that whatever you're going through and whatever you haven't been able to move through, you've got to keep searching for the way to get through it, because there is a way. You just haven't found it yet. And I hadn't found it. And for years, I tried not to find it because I thought I could just be strong and be tough and get through it. I could just keep masking, and I could just keep putting stuffing and tucking it down deep and just not dealing with it. And it was working. Yeah.
This is such a interesting conversation to me, because I'm usually having these types of conversation with men that come from operator backgrounds, you know, like the whole law enforcement military side of things. And it's fascinating hearing you almost verbatim say what these men, they just lost and feel that there's no getting it back. But then to look at you at this top performing athlete that thousands of young women have started the sport because of watching you and being this huge fan and this beacon of light to the MMA and the women sports. And this whole entire time, you're just grasping to anything that can just pull you out of this. And this is why it's so important for us to be able to talk and have somebody to be able to lean on during those times, because you take a high-performing world athlete like yourself, it happens to everybody. Nobody's safe from depression. Nobody is safe from toxic, abusive relationships, physically or mentally or verbally, whatever it is. And so this is why it's incredible to have these conversations, and to listen to somebody like you. I'd look at you a million times. See, when you reached out, and I was like, holy shit, Miesha Tate reached out? My wife's like, oh my God, man, I've had to hear about her your whole life. I'm like, first off, it was in the early days. You were my favorite fighter. My favorite. So you could ask her when we go down. She's like, oh my God, you had a crush. I'm like, it wasn't a crush. She was a fucking badass fighter. Like, I just was not a Ronda Rousey fan, you know? Like, and so, but to see that, and then to have these young girls that are, you know, on the path of fighting and discovering themselves and being that, it's terrifying. This is, it's that it can happen to anybody. I mean, we've all gone through these really little times in our lives, but you just need that mustard grain, that little mustard seed, this faith, the size of a mustard seed to hang on to, or that pinhole of light to start pulling you out of it.
Yeah.
And but until you start eliminating those things like toxic relationships. And I'm fascinated by that, honest to God, because of who you are and how you held yourself and represented yourself on a world stage. And to know that you had this clingy ass little bitch man that just, those dudes, I know a couple of those guys, and my Lance, I don't even know how women put up with them, but it's just,
I don't know either.
Narcissist manipulators.
Took a lot of patience.
I'm sure.
But I would say the flip side for me was having that perspective, and then like I said, like meeting my husband and having our two beautiful kids. Oh my gosh, that's just been everything for me. And then so I retired, and for 4.5 years we had 2 kids. And then I decided I wanted to come back. Actually, I was like 9 months pregnant with my son, 8 or 9 months, and I was like, I want to fight again.
Just one last time.
Yeah.
Just want to taste it one last time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. I wanted to come back. I didn't want to just one last time. I wanted to try to make a title run. I wanted to see what I could do being a more healed version of myself. And I still had a lot left to do. I wasn't totally healed, if I'm going to be honest, because I hadn't really unpacked or moved through a lot of the things that were kind of like my deep-seated issues. Okay. But I was like happy, if that makes sense. Like I was in a good place in my life. Okay. So even though I hadn't dealt with this stuff, I didn't have compounding things that were like dragging me down. But it wasn't until I had my kids and I just started going down every single rabbit hole. I wanted to know as much as I could about being the best mom that I could. So I was trying to educate myself. Mm-hmm. So I was reading it, first started with nutrition and all of those things, which I had a pretty good idea of, being an athlete, but there was so much more to nutrition and food, just food in general than, your standard, what you think is healthy,
right.
Which is what I thought most of my, first chapter of my career is like, oh, well, this is healthy. I'm like, oh, now I know that it's sprayed with glyphosate and these things are not on the label and that natural flavors could mean anything. And, just, so
What the hell's red dye 40?
yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll dye our cupcakes with like raspberry powder or something, But,
Exactly.
but we, so it started with that. And then I just really started to go down and it just, my thinking just became so expansive and like my concepts. And then I started to get into Gabor Mate stuff, and I've read 3 of his books. And one of them was Hold On to Your Kids. That was really powerful.
Oh, Don't Let Go First? One of the, is that what
it
that
was?
means?
Well, it's called Hold On to Your Kids, but
Okay.
it's about parental attachment.
Oh, okay.
And like how
Something
important
different. Okay.
how important that is for a like child's relationship. And I was like, wow, that was a really powerful book. And when I also read When the Body Says No, and like all these things where I understand that I do believe that, your sickness can come from, especially with autoimmune diseases, can come from not listening to your body. You basically create war inside your own body.
100%.
And 80% of, I learned this from Dr. Gabor, but 80% of all autoimmune diseases exist in women.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think statistically that's because we oftentimes work against our biology. It's easier to do as women. Because when men do what men are driven to do, which is typically like a good, healthy, testosterone-driven man, is like, I'm going to work. I'm going to go and I'm going to provide. And maybe you work too much. Maybe you exhaust yourself. Maybe you don't address your feelings. But that still goes along with your primary hormone, which is testosterone, which is like a driver. It's like
Absolutely.
do things.
Absolutely.
Or do shit. So there's an emotional aspect to it, but you're not working against your biology in the sense of you're doing shit. You're working out. You're going to work. You're providing. You're working with your biology. Now, women, on the other hand, we have 2 primary sex hormones that are constantly shifting. No day for us is the same. We have a huge spike in estrogen, and then we get a little bit of testosterone, and then estrogen drops off, and then we get this massive spike in progesterone, which is not really talked about. We think of estrogen as like the primary hormone for women, but I would argue that progesterone is more impactful. We get a bigger spike, and that's kind of that, we call it the luteal phase. I think of it as loot, as in looting. Like you feel like you're kind of being
This is the
stolen.
pre-period days?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know about that, right?
Oh, yeah. Fucking girl house. Like, I call it.
And if you're a girl dad, you better listen closely.
I call it lutealian. I'm like, because I don't know, they always say shit. And so whenever I get attacked, I'm like, are we in the luteal stage? And I always fuck it up because I don't know how to say. And she's like, my testosterone is peaking. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah. I'm continue. I'm
Yes.
with you. I know all the phases and chapters of you
so
women.
like a week before the period, like don't try to be talk
We're
about
peaking.
hard things. Yeah.
We're
'cause
peaking a week out. That's how I know. That's
Yeah.
what my wife says. She's like, I'm a week out. I'm like, wonderful. Cool.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now?
Yeah. Oh, that's what you should be like. What can I do for you? Do you want a foot massage? Like, and it'll go a long way. Or just
does.
like, do you want me to? I got the kids. Like, I got dinner tonight. Like those little tiny things.
Maybe I don't need to push buttons for the next week.
Yeah, like just don't do stupid shit,
Just
and
don't
then
do
like
dude
do
shit.
a little bit more like nice things, and like that goes a long way. That really can like just make our hormones be like at ease.
So here's the thing. Maybe you and I'm going to have you back on now that you're right down the road. And we're going to talk a whole episode on that type of shit. Because
Perfect.
nobody teaches men
No.
how to prepare for this, right?
Well, this is a new like, women are finally being studied. I just feel like women for a really long time haven't been studied.
It's fascinating of how much we don't know,
We don't
about,
know about women.
and we
And-
do know,
and-
and that just isn't public knowledge. Like, why
Right.
aren't we learning this shit in schools? You're gonna spend 12 years with my child, and then my daughters come out and don't even know how their bodies work.
Mm-hmm.
My sons don't know how their bodies and changes. And you take that. You said your daughter's 8.
Mhm.
That 8 to 12-year-old range, 9 to 12, is one of the most crucial phases for young girls as far as their developmental process, what they're taking in, who's in their home as far as being a leader, father, mentorship from their dads. They're watching. This is such. Nobody's ever said that to me in my life. Nobody's ever said to me, hey, dude, this phase of your daughter's life is one of the most crucial phases of her life. Everything that she's developing is she's watching you as the dad. This is where you set the tones of how she is going to date in the future, what she's going to look for, how she's developing and the processes. Nobody explains that to us. Nobody's explaining me, hey, when you have all these girls in your house, including the dog, and they're all linked and synced together, these are the phases that are going to be happening. This is what you could do to prepare for all your premenopause. I'm doing that. I actually have a community for men. I'm trying to find a doctor right now because a lot of these guys are my age. Wives are going into it, starting it. We don't even know.
Yeah.
I just saw a doctor talking about how 70% of divorces come from women, and the majority of that percentage is during the perimenopause stage. And it's like, how terrifying is that these marriages are ending because there's a chemical balance that switches overnight, that you could just wake up one day hating your husband and you don't even know why. And if the husband doesn't know why, then this animosity starts to build. But nobody's talking about this shit.
I know, and it's so important. Like, this could save marriages and save lives.
And like, I know I have a buddy right now that's going through, his wife is in the stages. He's telling me about it. I'm like, dude, like, do your research on this, because this is a thing. Like, your marriage does not need to end. This is a chemical balance that they switch. This, it's not her just hating you. She can't control this right now. But if you don't know this, you just think your wife hates you. Now you have this animosity. She's got animosity towards you. She doesn't even know she's going into this shit. Like, this is the stuff where we just don't know, and we don't talk about it. And then as far as men, I got to just be a man. Fuck that, bro. I'm not going through my whole entire marriage to get to this point where we're pre-menopause and now our marriage is going to fall apart over a chemical switch in you.
Right.
Fuck that. Like, no way have I gone through all these years
Yeah.
of healing and fixing my shit and fighting in the trenches to keep this marriage and my mistakes to lose it over a chemical switch.
Yes.
No way. That's how, but nobody talks
about
about this stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant.
No,
there,
but I mean, what you're saying is really good. And I hope that people are listening, because what you're talking about is so true. And I think a little bit, it doesn't have to be crazy, but a little bit of understanding and a little bit of support, whether that's with hormones or other things, can go so far for a woman. Because when we feel like we are trapped inside of a body that we don't feel like is ours, and that honestly kind of happens every luteal phase, or it can. Some women don't have as, major of symptoms. And I'm not here to pathologize the cycle. But what I want women to understand, what I want men to understand, is that this is more common than we think.
Absolutely.
And we can move through this in a productive way, as opposed to not understanding it and making it way more complex, making it work against us and fighting with our significant other. And, if you kind of know, like, track your cycle and kind of know how you generally change through your cycle, you can be ahead of the game. And you don't have to, like, schedule your massage for that week, or like do something that, like, takes a little off your plate. Problem's probably fixed, which wasn't even really a problem. It just needed some attention to realize, like, we're not small men. We don't run on a 24-hour hormone cycle.
That's where guys,
don't do that.
We have a hard time with that concept, because us as men, 24-hour peak, drop. You all,
it's a roller coaster ride for us for the entire month.
Fuck. But the swing, though, in women, your whole entire body is flushing itself or building up to a flush. Then you're dumping this, and then you have to deal with
the physical part
of it, which, God help you out. Goes back to the original. I don't know why why men would ever want to be a woman. That y'all got that title. Like, you win, right? But the fact of, like, do you guys this process for a week, you almost die, the whole house is turned upside down, and then you wake up one day and you're perfectly fine again. You're like, holy shit. But the fact that that's so what true. Women have to live with. And then
there's pregnancy and all that whole process too.
We're not even getting into that birth side of things.
I don't think being a woman is easy, but it
is not. That's why when we downplay women and these women are like, I could do what men could do, it's like, no, you can't.
You're already like here, don't.
Yeah, you're already on such a pedestal of what your bodies are able to do, what your body's able to adjust to, the chemicals that are going on inside of you. You're the most adaptive creature on the planet, are women. And I'm like, why do we want to fight this and change things?
And here's the beautiful part about men, because you guys can show up consistently every day. If you understand the tip of the iceberg of what you're saying, you can show up for her on the times that she needs you. And that's what's beautiful about having a good man in your life.
Yep.
Is that I'm not going to feel like I can do the same exact thing every day. Same workout for me doesn't work every day.
No.
And it might for you. There may be days that I need a little bit more rest and recovery, because every month my body's preparing for pregnancy. Whether I get pregnant or not, That's what the luteal phase is.
Yeah.
It's preparing for pregnancy. And so it is a huge ask. It's metabolically expensive. We burn an average of 172 calories more per day in the second half of our cycle. So our diets can't be the same. It's nothing. Your body wants blood sugar a little bit higher in that second phase. So women oftentimes suffer with a lot of guilt because they think, well, my husband can have this diet and it can stay the same. And then they think that they should be able to do the same. And I'm just like, okay, but I just want women to understand that there's a little bit more to it. And men, because if we don't understand, we can't help the men in our lives understand. And you guys have the beautiful ability. Men are so awesome. Like, men are so cool. The fact that you guys can show up consistently for us in the ways that we need every single day is but it's like, no, it's perfect because it is the balance that a woman needs when we're going through the roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Is to have something that's stable to hold on to, that can
A little
hold the family
stability.
together. A lot of stability. But like, if we don't understand what's going on in our bodies, we cannot possibly help the men in our lives who want to help us. Right. And so this is like that beautiful synergy that can really come together. And like, once we get it, it's really easy. Like, I'm able to just tell Johnny now, and he knows, he tracks my cycle, and it's cute because he like talks to his friends about it. And he's like, his buddies will call him up, man, I'm just going through it with my wife or my girlfriend. I don't understand why, last week, and it was like, everything was fine. It's like the same for, so basically the same for me. Like, I'm doing the same thing, but like, she's freaking out. Like, what am I doing wrong? And he's like, well, where is she at in her cycle? And they're like, what? Huh? I'm like, he's like, yeah, bro. Like, do you know where? Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think she things are better today. She started her period. I'm like,
Fucking
well,
A. All right, you're good,
okay,
dude. You're good.
Yeah, like, so, but it doesn't have to be diabolical like that. It doesn't have to be so crazy.
But that's how it's always been.
Because we don't understand the process. But if you just have a simple, basic understanding, you could change your whole
And
relationship.
then you're helping women with this.
That's what I want to do, because I did it wrong for most of my career. And as a professional athlete, this is really detrimental. To do it wrong like that it sucks.
Yeah,
There's big consequences when you do that.
100%. This in sports in general for women are wild, because of how your bodies are structured, and you could just be peaking one day and the next you're not. But to go back to even just tracking a cycle, right? My wife, I don't think she's ever missed one of anything in this house, but she could look on there. Now you can throw it in the AI and be like, predict my next one. We plan our vacations off of it now, because we're like, we're going to be on your period in the middle of a cruise.
right.
This,
no, how cool
we've
though,
made that mistake. But the fact that we're at that stage now in technology, that you can have an app for your boyfriend, husband, whatever. And I know this sounds probably crazy for dudes listening, but holy fuck, dude, when you get that lined out, it just makes life so much easier. You almost take this weird turmoil that's going to happen in your relationship whenever, maybe once a month, maybe it's a couple months, you
can prevent it.
And you now it's like, when I'm being attacked, and I'll just look at him, where are we? What phase are we in? You don't
even take it as personal. It's so good.
But then on top of it, when you got freaking teenagers catching up, a preteen that's pre-hormonal, now they're throwing everything off. Now everyone's late or they're early. It's just this endless
and then
craziness.
You learn to kind of just like relax a little bit, right? Yeah, because you got to surrender to the process a little bit, right?
Yeah. Have you seen the whole thing? My wife started doing it and eating right before she starts. There's a certain phase where she'll make sure she eats all the iron, and it helps.
Oh, good.
She suffers bad. I don't know if we'll have to show them, see if mom cares. Probably not, but she's have horrible cramps and just the flow, everything. But she changed a lot up, and actually fasting. She did a couple of fasts, and then, which was weird as a woman, she's trying to compare with me, and then she's weighing, and dude, she would jump pounds in a day, lose and I'm like, honey, you don't compare to me. She's on it. I mean, she's good. She's when it comes to all this, she don't miss a beat. But then I have to remind her every now and then. She just gets caught up in it. But
I think women should weigh themselves if they want to weigh themselves. You do it once a week, and you compare week 1 of your cycle to the next month's week 1. And week 2 of your cycle to next week's like 2 and 3.
You're not comparing previous week. You're comparing previous.
You don't even compare the previous day, because again, hormonally we have such massive shifts, and progesterone likes to hold on to water.
You guys can put on 8 pounds in a night just by
it doesn't
sleeping.
matter, and it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because it's not real. That is a psychological, mind battle that you don't need to have, because it's not real weight.
100%. And that's what messes with, especially a lot of young girls, young athletes.
Yeah.
We really didn't get into it much, but I was going to ask like what it plays a mental toll on you trying to cut weight. You're either, not much for you, but like look at these girls that are in cheerleading matches and competitions and these dancers that, hey, honey, you watch these shows and moms are pinching and trying to tell kids they need to tighten up. It's like, what are you setting
Terrible
for your
messaging.
child at this stage that they're worried about weight and their image and things like that? Like, how is that creating a healthy atmosphere for this child, young girl at this age, and going to grow up into something and not have an eating disorder or
Well, that's
some
why
sort
there
of
is so
insecurities?
much of that, because we needed to have more of these conversations, because there's a lot that can be done. This doesn't have to be so complicated or so intimidating or so scary. It's like we can do this. There's a lot of information that's coming out
For sure.
there, and you
For
can learn, and you can simplify your life and show up for your wife or your daughter. And I don't think it has to be so crazy. It doesn't have to be so chaotic.
It doesn't anymore. When our oldest first started her period and everything, it was, oh God, she started. But I'm like, who cares? I'm a girl dad. We just got to accept this. So that's why I was like, listen, I don't give a shit. I'm going to let's talk. And so it was almost me bringing like, we're not hiding this. You're going to have this for the majority of your life now. So we're in it.
Yes.
I got a little one that's behind. So it just, as especially a girl dad, I got so many girl dads that listen and follow, but it's just one of those things as a dad, you always see it's that time, man. They're going to start soon. You almost fear it for some reason. There's this fear implanted in us as dads of girls starting a period and you're going to be stuck with them. As soon as you just accepted, I have a daughter or I have a wife.
Yeah.
This is part of their life. So if it's part of their life, they live under my roof
part of your life.
every single day. It has to be part of my life, or we have this weird disconnect when it comes to these certain things. And I don't know when she's on her. That's why now it's like, and it's so helpful because instead of, I don't have bad kids. Like they're not just, there's no back talk. I don't have to deal with like the negative side of, I guess, most teenagers and dealing with it. But there's times where she has a little attitude, and I'll be like, I'll look at the wife, I'm like, we started. She's like, yeah, it's coming. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I know. It's not an excuse, but I know now, like, okay, we're gonna be short, and the whole world's gonna be falling for the next couple days, and whatever drama, I don't know, but you never know.
But it's so much easier to move through it.
And once you learn it, you're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, well, have fun. I'll be in the garden. Like, you guys can fight it out in here. I'll be back with the dog. But it's just knowing.
You don't have to take it personal.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, what the fuck I do? Sometimes it's crossfire, And I'll be like, I'm getting attacked from every angle. And they're like, we're all loosely on stages. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'll be out back. I'm going to go sit with my bees.
You get it, though. I mean, 100%. You're learning. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, but it's every day. But it's great that you're into that because there's so much information in the world that we just choose to not dig or acknowledge that it's even there. And that goes back to homeschooling your children and being able to have those real world conversations about their bodies, how they're going to change, what to look forward to, because it's so taboo in school, or they play some video for one day in sex ed class and there's your period. It's like that's how we're preparing children. But hey, you know what? They know the Pythagorean theorem, but this girl coming out of high school can't even tell you one thing about her body.
Oh yeah.
Make that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
And this is how we end up in these.
You can't make it make sense.
These relationships where boys don't know. We're not teaching young men. Yes, there's so many things that we need to be teaching young men to be a man. But guess what? Being part of a man is building a family, and that's going to become a woman one day.
Yep.
So they should have basic knowledge of, hey, these are how women work. And we're never going to figure it out because y'all are batshit crazy for a week or two and do some crazy shit.
But you can learn to navigate it.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. You just have to accept it. Like, that's wild chaos. It's just having women in your house.
You know what's funny is, like, men feel so sorry for them. Doesn't put down, but hear me out. It's like, oh, we have to deal with the crazy, this and that. I was like, imagine how we feel on the inside. If that's what you're experiencing on the outside.
That's what my wife
just
says.
Imagine what we feel on the inside, because that's not fun. Nobody likes to feel like that. Nobody likes to feel like they have very little bandwidth and that they're like half a step away from either crying or losing their shit because they feel maxed out.
Yeah.
Like they're hormonally just depleted. And it's like, it's tough.
And carrying everything else because the man has no idea what's going on. So a wife or whoever's just.
But when a man does understand it, even though you may not, you don't understand it from firsthand perspective, but you understand that that this is true and this is what women go through, you can show up in your best way. And usually that's really helpful. And I know it's appreciated. I appreciate it.
And it's
a ton.
very simple gestures. My wife,
Small.
she wants to be held.
Mhm.
She wants to be heard. That's it. But
Yeah.
I fought all these years.
Yeah.
And then since her testosterone or whatever, progesterone, I can't ever say that word, is peaking, she naturally has that shield up and she's irritable. But I'll just come in and hold her now. And then everything's
It
gone.
melts away. Yeah.
Everything's gone. But it took me fucking 16 years to figure that out.
So now if you could pass it along a little earlier, you might save some
hug.
poor innocent dude a lot of strife.
This is where it goes to knowing love languages, your love, gifts of words of affirmation, physical touch,
Yep.
all those things, knowing what your wife is. So when she's peaking, you can go and bring her flowers one day. It's once a month. She's in that phase where all it takes is some flowers. And then guess what? Your house is back to not being a hurricane for a week. Cool. Or those few days in mine, she just needs that. But once I learned it, that's when I'm
So
okay,
easy,
we're
right?
peaking. And I just reassure her, I love you. Everything's good. Don't kill me. And then she calms down and we're good. We're back on track. That's
the beauty that you guys can bring is that ability to regulate.
Yep. Which
when
takes
we're
time.
going through the roller coaster of everything, like the man can be that rock, that steady point. It's like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Like if something stable to hold on to.
Our natural role as men.
Natural role.
Imagine, it's so crazy to think when a man truly steps into the role as a man in his family, not just a protector and a provider.
Yep.
Those are the bare minimums. Like that is what it takes to barely be a man, to be able to provide and to protect your family. And protection isn't just standing up and I'm going to be able to fight the world. There's a whole other level there. But true men is knowing your vulnerability, checking your ego, learning your wife and daughter cycles, knowing what they're going through. Like that is, and then once they know that you as the man of this household are bringing that level of
intention.
Exactly. Intention to
care.
this marriage or relationship. Now you're letting your guard down. You're not peaking. Now you feel safe. You feel content. You, as a woman, that's what you need. We could go through this whole, I'm a boss, babe. I could do what men could do. At the end of the day, all those women are angry and single. But then you have this woman that has figured out her man, how to master and control this dude by just letting him know the little secrets here and there. And he thinks he's helping, but in reality, they're just training us to make their life a little bit easier. And then you almost get this synergy where it's you walk in the home and your wife, there's no greater accomplishment than your wife feeling safe and secure and felt and heard and all the other things validated in your guys' relationship. And then watch how everything just falls into play. You start getting a lot more action. You're happier.
Is that right?
You're going on, you acting like teenagers again. Like it's so crazy of when you come together and connected on all the levels, not just as a provider, protector, this man of the house, but you're connecting with your wife on that intimate level of listening and being able to let her be heard. Fuck, why aren't we teaching that shit?
Right.
God, bro,
a lot of stress and anxiety and confusion. So I'm glad that you're figuring it out. You got daughters, so you need to know. You should know even if you just have a wife or mom or sister.
100%. There's no
coworkers. Like I'm not saying you need to track your coworker cycles, but I'm just saying like have a little like room for understanding that women operate differently. And so when women operate according to like more, they try to show up like how a man does every day. That's why I think we have so much more autoimmune diseases.
Interesting.
Because we fight our natural rhythm, which there is a rhythm, there is a cycle.
100%.
There is literally something that's trackable, that's going to be fairly consistent every single month.
Almost down to the day.
Like, and it will vary for women, but if you track and you start to understand your cycle, it's information. That's data, right? So, but when women pretend like that is irrelevant and we want to show up the same way that men show up every single day, we create a war inside of our body where our mind is saying, we're going to do this. And our body's like, no, but we need this. And then there's a battle. And that is when the body doesn't distinguish itself from self.
Can't regulate.
Two different things are being required of it that are opposites. And so that's how I see a lot of autoimmune diseases pathologizing, because we don't work with our biology. Like we ignore it. We try to operate like men in a men's world. That's what men are for. Right? Like we don't have to do that.
Fascinating you saying that coming from one of the most male dominated sports in the world.
I learned the hard way. We can get into Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and I'm all for women like doing sports and being strong and like being go-getters. Like I'm all for that. But can we just understand that we operate differently, and can we give ourselves a little grace and space in the times that we need that? We don't have to show up the way that men show up every day, because that is just asking a tremendous, that's a lot. And
huge weight to
and
try
we
to bear.
we shouldn't have to, because this is not hormonally and biologically how we are set up to operate. I believe that women go through these ups and downs every month. I think that it has a God-given purpose. I think that this ties us into being nurturing mothers, because our children go through this volatilely until their brains develop, and still not until they're like in their 20s are their brains totally done developing.
Nope.
But like a child doesn't have the frontal lobe developed. So a young child is going to go from 0, to 100 very quickly. And we know what that feels like because we experience it every month. So we can empathize with like what it feels like to have a short bandwidth, or what it feels like to be emotional, or what it feels like to have change going on, or things you don't understand. So I feel like there is an evolutionary purpose in that sense, that women are like, oh, I know, like that's my baby. I know what that feels like.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool, right? That
That's
we
incredible.
can nurture our children through it, because we can empathize through it, because we know, because we're constantly relating to what it feels like to sometimes feel like things are unstable or things are out of control. And then the man comes in and he's like the rock and the support that can give us the stability, but he may not be able to quite remember what it was like to be 2 years old and doing a temper tantrum because you're overtired. But your wife is. She's going to know what that feels like, because she's just went through that in the luteal phase, where she wanted to throw a temper tantrum because she was tired. Like I think that there is like such a beautiful synergy to that, but I think there's also a purpose in it. So it's beautiful. And if we can understand it and work with it, it's honestly a great thing. It's what women pay to bring every single human into this world. And I think that for that, this should be talked about, and this should be understood, because
Facts.
there's a great, I'm going to say debt to be paid to women, but there should be some gratitude and understanding and grace.
There's a huge
for
debt to be
what
paid to
it
women.
takes to bring people into the world. Like that's
There's
cool.
a
So
huge
like
debt.
let's.
I'm like one of the, I don't want to say a male chauvinist. Grew up in a very old school home. My mom was home every day, dinner on the table. My dad walked in the door, very old traditional, which that's how I was raised. So when I was in my dating, I'm like, okay, these are the roles. Like my woman's going to be home, dinner on the table. Clearly that's not how life worked out. But I've always been one of those, like, women are in their roles, men are in these roles. And then I have daughters, and now I'm like, my daughters could do everything that men can do to a certain point. But teaching those roles and knowing the roles and how our bodies, it's the most incredible thing when you can learn. But like you're talking how, the mom knowing these things and being able to help their children now. Same with dads. Like that's how we need to be raising our sons. Hey, this is what's going on in this age. You're developing. These are the things we need to be looking for. But I feel we now outsource our education to everybody except for the parents, which leads you teaching your kids nothing about themselves, about how their bodies are going to be changing and growing. And it's just a very sad thing of how we have eventually now just give our kids to the government and trust them in.
It's so sad.
In teaching them, it's terrifying. And so,
Well, I'm trying to change that. I think you are too. I mean, it looks like it. Meeting your great family today.
Thank
Your
you.
daughters are brilliant. Your wife is really cool. Very funny.
Thank you. You got to get her on your show. You want some views and laughs. Holy shit. Turn her loose. I might have to just go and supervise, because she'll get down some rabbit holes.
Yeah, I love it. I'm here for it. I walked in and I saw with the jumping spider little cage, and I was like, cool. And I saw sourdough. I was like, I'm in. And then the bees. You guys have bees, and I'm like, okay, that's it. You guys are my people.
You haven't seen the garden yet. Wait till you see the garden. It's impressive. So I'll send you home with some stuff. But thank you for this conversation. I want to have you back on, and I would want to talk all the crazy shit you've gone through, as far as like all the questions and fighting and behind the UFC. I had a million questions for you, but we're about to hit 4 hours, and we could probably do 10 hours talking to you. But this was an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story. I'm sure a lot of people have not just heard a start to finish of who you are as a
rare
young
to
woman.
take this deep of a dive. So thank you.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of places that I appreciate you trusting us to come on and
Definitely.
dive into a little bit of your life. I mean, I wasn't even sure where this is going. I never know where any of our episodes are going to
Yeah.
go, and so I've given up on having an agenda.
Yeah, you
It's
can't.
wild chaos. Like it's
Yeah.
it's literally I'll have a guy on. We're going to talk about his life and how he flushed the whole entire thing and ruined it, and then before you know it, we're talking a whole entire relationship about God and finding faith. And you never know where conversations go here. But I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for coming on
you.
and giving me this opportunity. And so once you guys are all established and ready to hit the ground running here in Idaho, I want to have you back on and we're going to talk like the behind the scenes of the
Definitely.
UFC, the
Yes.
crazy wild questions.
Yeah,
So,
maybe I'll be able to talk about how the school's going by then too. So
yeah,
that's exciting.
yeah. Perfect.
I'm
So once I
excited
guess
about
that's
that.
once you got that up and going. Let's
Yeah.
okay,
be
so real
September,
quick,
so.
what are you launching real fast and how are people able to get a hold of you? And then I got one final question.
So we are launching in September. Apogee Boise. You go to apogeeboise.com if you want to learn more. And there's all the stuff on there, all the information. So you can learn about that. But and then you can just follow me at Miesha Tate on most places, otherwise social media and website. And I've got a cool newsletter.
How do we get signed up for that?
MieshaTate.com. You should be able to sign up for the newsletter.
Cool.
Yep. So you sign up there, and once every couple weeks I send something out that kind of helps maybe some of your male followers, your buddy. He might like that because about one of every 4 I really gear towards men understanding what the females. I mean, it's not that you can't get the information in the other one, but I'm writing it to the men, for the men who have daughters, who have wives, who really are coaches, right? Like coaches of female athletes.
Mm-hmm.
This is important for them to know. Really important. When I train now in the UFC, there's an app that we use that we share with the trainers, and like they know our cycles, and I'm like, hey, this is not weird. Like this is normal. Like every woman is going through this, and so I like to adjust my trainings slightly based on what I feel like is, like I like my deload week to be in the luteal phase where the looting is happening. I like that to be. And then we progress, and like the hardest part of my training, the heaviest lifts and those things will be more towards the peak of testosterone, because that's a really nice hormone to have when you're trying to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, why not make the heaviest lifts then? So it's just like these small adjustments. Again, we're not pathologizing the cycle, but it helps to understand it.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I know you don't know much about us, but that's one of those things that I live my life by. Just make it make sense. If you want me to believe it, make it make sense.
Yep.
And the fact that you're, hey, let's track. So we can now utilize our strengths and weaknesses as a woman when it comes to training, building, whatever it may be.
And we can get stronger from this.
That makes sense. But in reality, it's like you got to hire a coach or know somebody that knows somebody to start teaching these things, or you're on YouTube. But now that you're going to be putting these sources and you're putting these letters out, that's an incredible. Good for you for doing that.
Yeah, we're going to work on developing, programs and things like that are going to help to understand as well,
Cool.
to really be able to take what I'm saying and use it comprehensively.
Last question for you. You've gone through a lot. For all the young women out there that are getting into discovering themselves and spreading their wings and building their own nest, what would be a message to women that you just want them to know as far as getting into the world of dating, chasing passions, anything along those lines? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. I think that it is very, very important to be in tune with yourself. And that is it's something that's going to take some unpacking and some learning for most of us. We probably weren't raised with all the tools that we need, because that's just a hard thing to do. But I would say let intuition be your guide. Ask yourself questions. Have a conversation with yourself. Like ask yourself, how am I feeling today? Not enough people stop and do that. Check in with yourself throughout the day. How are we doing? Where are we at? And then if you can notice trends in your cycle, you could better prepare for anything, the curveballs that don't need to be curveballs, because you might be able to see them coming straight on if you just have a little bit more awareness. So I love, the idea of having some cyclical concept, but what I don't like where, cycle based training and, cyclical is that sometimes the wellness industry is taking this and like I said, has pathologized oh, the cycle, like it's so, in your luteal phase, just don't even touch a weight, like, because you're basically broken. Like, no, like, we are still capable. There's never a time that you don't need to work out. Like, but listen to your body. Stop fighting your body. 80% of autoimmune diseases are in women. Why? Let's just ask that question. It's probably because we're not listening to our bodies. And our hormones are more fragile. When we mess it up, it's not very easy to fix them.
Very, very hard to get back.
So lead with your intuition. Ask yourself how you're feeling. Check in with yourself. And if things are consistently not right, you may want to consider changing some of your environment or getting some help or working with a cognitive behavioral therapist. I like that a lot better than talk therapy, because I think that they give you real tools as opposed to just talking about everything that's wrong. And,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on therapists. I think
Oh, yeah.
they're just as flawed as we are. They just go to school to learn how to talk to people. This is therapy.
Yeah.
I've
This is
had
therapy.
more men. I've cried on these chairs.
Having conversations is
This
therapy.
is therapy. But the fact that you lean on somebody, but I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Like, learn, if you're going to talk to somebody and they're going to help them figure out chunks and parts of
Yes.
your life, your health.
Give you tools that you didn't have before so that you can try things and figure out what works for you.
Yep.
So I say intuition based. Lead with your heart, lead with your intuition, listen to yourself, have those conversations, track your cycle, and see if you find some reoccurring things that happen at the same times in the month that make sense for you, so that you can kind of try to live your best life based off of
Build
how you
patterns.
feel in your life. And I think that the people around you in your life that care about you can learn to show up in the ways that help and support. The men in your life particularly sometimes just don't have a clue if you don't have a clue. How could they? So help them help you.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate this
Thank
conversation.
you.
This was great. This is kind of
I can't wait for the sourdough.
This is like a surreal thing too, to like the fact that when this all came about, and we're like, dude, we should take. I'm like, holy shit. My wife's like, because she's like, oh yeah, I've heard so much, but this was a long time ago. But I go, it's not even the fact that I thought you were like the baddest chick on the planet at that phase of your life, but I'm like, the fact that we have the ability that you want to come and just share a story on this podcast that I do with my kid. That's where I'm like, Miesha Tate's fucking coming to our house. I'm like, this is dope. Like, because I don't reach out to celebrities and these big name people. I just talk to the average person.
Oh my gosh, but I love that. Like, I love your podcast, and I was
Thank you.
That's so cool, because there's the stories that haven't been told. It's really cool.
That's it. That's all we want.
The fact that it came across hers is just crazy, because that just means it's getting out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.